Hey guys, tonight we slip quietly into the velvet embrace of a medieval chamber, where the air smells faintly of beeswax and something sharper beneath, and the firelight trembles against brocade curtains heavy enough to drown out a scream. You stand here, in a world where a queen's touch could bless or banish, where a single glance carries the weight of a treaty, and where the soft rustle of silk can hide the approach of claws. The first thing you notice isn't the throne itself, but the way it looms. It's not the height, although it could easily fit 3 grown men stacked atop each other. It's the way the shadows catch on the carved serpents coiled along its arms, their jeweled eyes glittering like they know every secret whispered in this hall. The queen sits as if she grew from the velvet, her gaze steady, her smile almost kind. But it's the kind of kindness that could cut you without drawing blood, the sort that leaves a wound you don't realize until days later. Your steps echo over the black and white tiles, and with each click you feel the calculation in the air. Here, nothing is left to chance. The light is angled to flatter her, the music timed to make you pause at just the right moment. Even the curtains, those blood-red velvet walls, aren't just decoration. They muffle more than sound. They muffle truth. Historians still argue whether the queen's charm was learned or born, but you can see how it's been honed to a blade. A flick of her eyes, and a courtier bows so low you wonder if they'll ever straighten again. Another flick, and a servant disappears, their tray of wine goblets trembling. You suspect they've made a mistake. You suspect they'll pay for it before dawn. And yet she smiles at you. It's a slow curve of the lips that should reassure you. And maybe in another life, it would. But here the smile is a test. Do you flinch? Do you return it? The wrong choice could mark you for months. You think of the stories. The nobleman who joked about her gown and found himself mysteriously exiled. The lady-in-waiting who spilled ink near her embroidery and vanished into a convent no one visits. There's a scent in the air, subtle but deliberate. Not just lavender from the gardens, but something deeper. Ambergris, perhaps, or a rare resin brought from a port you can't name. It clings to the queen's robes, to the very air around her, so that when you breathe, you inhale her influence. A mainstream fact most people forget. In certain medieval courts, perfumes weren't just vanity, they were markers of wealth, political reach, even territorial claims. To smell of a distant spice was to silently declare you controlled its trade. But there's also something stranger here. The fringe rumor you've heard in taverns that this queen has each curtain's hem stitched with strands of hair from defeated rivals, woven so fine you'd never see it without the right light. It's the kind of detail no chronicler dares to write, but every drunk storyteller swears is true. You feel eyes on you from the edges of the room. Guards? No, these aren't soldiers. They're the quiet ones. Older, less noticeable, draped in muted colors. They carry no weapons you can see, but the set of their shoulders says they don't need any. One of them tilts their head slightly, as if to signal you've taken too long in your thoughts. The queen notices too, of course she does. She notices everything. The music shifts, a soft pluck of strings, and she leans forward, elbows resting lightly on the carved serpents. "You've travelled far," she says, her voice low, not out of shyness but control. You nod, not trusting your own voice yet. She studies you, like she's measuring whether you're a piece on her board or simply a pawn. Someone else moved here, and then she does something unexpected. She laughs. It's not loud, but it's sudden, like a knife flashing in the dark. You realize then that her court isn't just a place of opulence, it's an ecosystem. Every smile is currency, every gesture a transaction. The curtains aren't the only velvet here. The entire evening is padded, muffled, softened, so the sharp edges don't look dangerous until they're pressed against you. And that's when it strikes you. The real horror isn't what you see, it's what you can't. Somewhere behind those curtains, someone is waiting, someone whose fate will be sealed tonight. Maybe with a whisper, maybe with a nod. You're not sure if it's you. You stand before the altar, and it feels like a treaty table dressed as a love story. The rings are small, the clause is enormous. Every vow you speak doubles as a border agreement, Every smile is a tariff reduction, and the kiss is a seal stamped on parchment you never got to edit. Courtiers breathe through their noses to hide excitement, and bishops look like notaries who also moonlight as meteorologists because they keep checking the winds of politics as they bless you. The choir sounds lovely. It also sounds like a chorus of witnesses who will swear later that they saw you happy, in case anyone needs to cite the moment in a dispute. You notice how the bridal train moves like a silk river, and you remember the velvet curtains from the last room that swallowed sound. This room does the opposite. It records. Laughter lands on stone and stays there. When you say "I do," you can feel history pinning the words to you like jeweled insects in a glass case. A light joke flickers in your head. If marriage is two becoming one, the one seems to be a customs union with a very bossy spokesperson. You keep that joke inside because the diplomat from the north is watching your lips. Here is a solid, mainstream fact that rarely gets the romance treatment. Among medieval elites across parts of Europe, weddings often culminate in a bedding ceremony. The couple is escorted to a prepared bed while relatives and high officers hover nearby, sometimes offering warm wine, sometimes offering advice that is only slightly less awkward than the hovering. The ritual is about verifiable union. It is not about privacy. You learn quickly that in a royal marriage, the bed is not a room. It is a stage. The curtain does not separate you from the audience. It signals that the show is about to begin. You pass into the bridal chamber and the air changes from frankincense to honeyed milk. The bedding sheets gleam like a snowfield under lamplight. You are aware of linen quality the way a sailor is aware of tides. The queen, which is to say you, becomes both participant and evidence. A calm voice explains that the cloth is new and that attendants will collect it after. The voice is gentle. The implication carries teeth. You add another light joke to your private collection. Nothing says romance like a return policy. Attendants bustle with the energy of people who both believe in rituals and rely on them as insurance. Somewhere in the corridor, a scribe sharpens a quill. You can almost hear the footnotes forming. Historians still argue whether every court required literal proof on the sheets, or whether some courts preferred discreet nods and signatures, but the expectation of consummation as political confirmation is well attested. A bride who secures a border with a single knight has performed statecraft. A bride who fails may wake to find maps redrawn with her name scratched out. Yet the old world loves a workaround. A fringed tidbit whispers through the chamber like a draught. An older lady suggests a pinch of powdered strawberry root under the pillow to coax fertility, and an easy blush if anyone checks the cloth too closely. Someone else mentions crushed red petals hidden in seams. Are these tricks reliable, or only comforting stories that pass among women like lullabies? No one writes them down. Everyone knows them. You tuck the knowledge beside your heartbeat and hope the curtain does the rest. The priest visits once more to murmur blessings, and you recognize his cadence from earlier hearings at court. He wraps eros in theology, then ties both to policy like a neat bow on a document. A third joke arrives like a candle flicker. If the kingdom ever needs new tax revenue, it could charge seating for all the people who treat your wedding night as a spectator sport. You manage a serene smile. Queens survive on serene smiles. The groom enters with the solemnity of a man who has studied maps more than poems. He is kind enough and careful with your hand. You see his eyes calculate the alliances that curl outward from your bed like compass lines. You two are partners in a performance whose audience is entire provinces. He whispers that the room is warm. You reply that the room is listening. The two of you practice the ancient art of saying everything while saying little. A household officer recites the dowry items again, as if inventory could calm nerves. There are bolts of cloth, a casket of coins, a monstrance of relics that certify piety, and lands that will pass to heirs not yet born. Hidden inside the list is the unsaid line that belongs to you and yet never quite does. The dowry of flesh. You are the warrant that guarantees continuity. It stings. It also empowers. Queens who understand that the ledger cuts both ways learn to pull the strings that tie the kingdom's purse to their own projects. Later, after the first quiet closes in, You recall another mainstream fact that looks cold on parchment, but feels hot in the body. Royal marriages were often arranged across languages, across distances, across childhoods that did not meet until the day of the treaty. The learning curve is steep and immediate. You train your voice to travel gently over that curve. You choose patience because it buys you leverage within a month. You choose memory because it buys you power within a year. There are relics on the wall and a small chest of ointments on the table. The labels smell like apothecaries and rumours. Some contain rose oil and myrtle for comfort. Others lean into the stranger provinces of desire. In some courts, cantharides powder, the fabled Spanish fly, circulates as an aphrodisiac. Wise women treat it as danger because it burns more than it beckons. You set the jar aside and ask for honey water instead. A queen does not outsource her safety to bottles that promise fireworks in a stone castle filled with official listeners. You wonder, softly, about myths that refuse to die. The story of a lord's right to a bride on her first night tugs at the edge of the chamber like a moth at a candle. You know the scholarship. Historians still argue whether such a right ever existed in law or was merely a later slander, a way to paint feudal power with a darker brush. What you do know is that power often does not need a law to enter a room. It only needs people who will not look directly at the door. Your attendants return in the morning with faces composed like parchment. They fold the sheets with an art that looks like origami and diplomacy at once. They will report what needs reporting. You will drink spiced milk and say less than you feel. Outside, bells ring. Inside, you take inventory. There is the treaty. There is the bed. There is your pulse, steady as a drum at a procession. The room may have listened last night, but your body speaks a clearer language. It tells you what you can ask for next. The first request you make is deceptively small. You ask that the same women who prepared the bedding continue as your regular household. It sounds like comfort. It is actually a staff consolidation. Trust is a currency here. If the chamber is a stage, you are choosing the stagehands. This is how queens quietly turn the audience into a chorus that hums in their key. By noon, gifts arrive from the allied court. There is a prayer book with margins wide enough to hide codes, and there is a small silver box that smells faintly of castoreum, the beaver scent prized by perfumers. The box is odd and expensive. You recognize it as a message. Our merchants reach as far as rivers with teeth. You answer with a wreath of dried orange peel, cloves, and a single strand from your bridal veil. The scent says we remember last night. The thread says we control the story. You walk the gallery with your new husband, while ambassadors hover at the edges like migratory birds, who claim they are just passing through. You speak of weather, then roads, then the monastery that keeps annals with a handwriting that never lies. You steer the walk so that you pass beneath a tapestry depicting a queen who founded a hospital. The image is deliberate. The future you pitch to the room is charitable and fruitful. The subtext is this: the treaty continues tonight and tomorrow and the day after, but the narrative belongs to you. When you reach the staircase, you pause, hand on the rail that gleams with a polish made of linen and repetition. You look down into the well of the castle where voices blend into one soft roar. It sounds like the sea. It sounds like history. It sounds like the quiet promise you made to yourself when the curtains closed. You will survive by choosing when to let the ritual use your body and when to let your body use the ritual. It is a small difference. It is also everything. You wake to a sunbeam that's too precise to be accidental, sliding across the chamber as if someone in the servants' wing had aimed it there just to remind you who's in control of the curtains. Your husband has already gone to morning prayers, no surprise there, since piety is one of the currencies in this place. You, however, are expected to remain in what they call cloistered grooming. The phrase sounds delicate, but it's really code for hours of being turned into a living emblem of the crown's dignity. You sit on a carved stool while a pair of maids pour warmed rosewater over your hands. It's soothing, but also a reminder. The scent will cling to you all day, and everyone who smells it will know you've been attended to in the royal way. This is not indulgence. This is branding. A mainstream fact: royal women in medieval courts often spent more time being prepared for appearances than making them. Every pleat, every braid, every touch of pigment was calculated to project stability and authority, especially in volatile courts where a queen's appearance could be read like a political forecast. One maid combs your hair in slow, deliberate strokes, and you notice how she counts them under her breath, not superstition protocol. In this court, the number of strokes matches the rank of the queen's mother, a detail so obscure you almost laugh. That's light joke number one for the day. Somewhere in this country, there's a ledger that could list your hairbrush as a diplomatic tool. A woman with a sharp chin and eyes that never quite look at you steps forward with a small jar. The paste inside is pearlescent, smelling faintly of almonds and something bitter underneath. She tells you it will brighten your skin. You've heard this before. Some formulas use ground pearls, others powdered lead. One makes you luminous. The other makes you luminous in a more permanent, coffin-adjacent way. Historians still argue whether most queens knew exactly what went into their cosmetics, or whether they trusted their attendants to shield them from harm. You suspect the truth is that knowledge was power, and too much power in a queen's hands was something men liked to dilute literally. You decline the paste with a smile, and the woman bows as though this is your whim, not your decision. A fringe tidbit you once overheard comes to mind. A queen in another court secretly swapped her daily lead wash for rice water, letting her rivals slowly sicken while she remained robust. The story is probably embroidered, but you file it away. Sometimes survival is less about winning and more about outlasting. The grooming continues with layers of linen and silk, each tied, pinned and belted until you feel like an exquisite puzzle. The innermost layer is plain, only you and your women see it, but the outer robe is a spectacle. Gold thread along the hem catches the morning light, making you appear taller, more radiant, more expensive. You joke to yourself that you could probably buy a village with the embroidery around your sleeves. Joke number 2, though this one is less funny if you think about it too long. They place a thin circlet on your brow, just enough to remind everyone in the palace who you are, without committing the faux pas of wearing a full crown indoors. In this court, everything has a rule, and every rule has an exception. Knowing when to break one is as important as knowing how to follow it. That's lesson 3 of the day, and you haven't even had breakfast yet. Your hair is braided into a crown shape, threaded with tiny glass beads from Venice. Their soft clink when you move is not accidental. It's a sound that travels ahead of you in corridors, announcing your presence before anyone sees your face. A courtier might hear that faint music and straighten their posture, adjust their tone, or hide whatever they were doing. This is how queens maintain control, not by storming into rooms, but by letting rooms rearrange themselves before they arrive. The final touch is a small vial of perfume. You recognize it amber and orange blossom, and you know its history. It was a gift from an envoy whose country is currently renegotiating a trade treaty. To wear it is to signal warmth toward them. To omit it might spark speculation. You choose to dab just a little at your throat and wrists. Enough to acknowledge, not enough to commit. Joke number 3. Diplomacy is just perfume with paperwork. You're escorted to a smaller salon for a morning audience, but the path is deliberate. You pass through the Hall of Ancestry, where every portrait watches you with eyes that seem to measure your worth. It's no accident. The maids keep you walking at a measured pace here, slow enough for every visitor to notice, fast enough that no one can stop you. The portraits tell a story. Queens who ruled as regents, queens who brokered peace, queens who vanished from the record without explanation. You feel the weight of them as though they were beads on a rosary, each one a warning or a promise. The salon smells of ink and beeswax. A small table is set with writing materials, and beside it, a tray of fresh figs. The figs are a message imported, rare this time of year, and likely meant to impress a visiting merchant. The steward will note whether you eat them. If you do, it's a silent endorsement of trade expansion. If you don't, it's a signal of caution. You take one, bite gently, and make sure the steward sees. Sometimes the smallest gestures ripple outward like stones in a pond. The audience consists of 2 elderly dowagers, a young poet and a foreign noblewoman. with a stare as sharp as glass. You listen more than you speak, filing away their words for later. In these early days, your power lies in observation, not proclamation. The poet recites a verse about a queen whose beauty made armies lay down their swords. The dowagers nod approvingly, but you notice how the noblewoman's jaw tightens. Rivalry has its own scent, and you recognize it instantly. As the morning winds down, you're led back through a different corridor. This one is narrow, lined with tapestries depicting hunting scenes. It's cooler here, the air tinged with something metallic. You realize these corridors are meant for controlled movement not just of people, but of information. You pass two maids whispering near a window, and their conversation stops when they see you. You wonder if they were talking about the wedding night, about the sheets, about the treaty disguised as a marriage. You wonder if the story is already changing. By the time you return to your chambers, the sunbeam has shifted, and the air smells faintly of the perfume you chose earlier. The stool is still there, the rosewater bowl now empty. You sit, and for a moment, you simply breathe. Cloistered grooming is over, but its purpose lingers. Every braid, every thread, every scent is part of the performance. And in this court, the performance is your armor. The bath is already drawn when you return from the salon, the water steaming in a shallow copper basin big enough to fit 3 people, but intended only for one. The room smells like honey and milk, the kind of scent that makes you think of lullabies until you remember where you are. This is no simple bath. This is a stage for a ritual older than the castle itself, performed under the pretense of preserving beauty, but whispered about for its deeper uses. 2 attendants in linen tunics help you undress, folding each layer of fabric as if it were scripture. You step into the warmth, the milk swirling into clouds around your skin, and the first touch of the water makes you exhale. It's easy to pretend it's just comfort, but you've already learned nothing in this court is just one thing. The mainstream fact sits in the back of your mind. In parts of medieval Europe and the Middle East, noble women bathed in milk or herbal infusions, not only for the skin, but as part of ceremonial purification, sometimes before fertility rites, sometimes before political appearances meant to radiate vitality. A silver ladle pours water over your shoulders, and you notice how the ripples carry tiny flecks of gold leaf. They catch the light like sun motes, drifting until they settle against your skin. The sensation is almost ticklish. You make a light joke to yourself. This must be the most expensive exfoliation in the kingdom. The older attendant hums a tune while she works, her fingers tracing slow circles with a linen cloth. It's an old melody, and you can't place it until she leans in and murmurs, "My grandmother sang this at the last Queen's bath." The words are almost casual, but the implication isn't. These baths are archives. They carry gossip, memory, and sometimes evidence. You wonder how many secrets are stored in the steam. A fringe tidbit drifts back to you stories of queens whose bathwater was collected afterward, bottled, and kept in locked cabinets. Some said it was for protection against sorcery, others for less mystical purposes. Imagine being so valuable that even the water you sat in could become a weapon or a relic. You half expect to see someone hovering with a stoppered flask. From the corner of your eye, you spot the woman who never quite meets your gaze. She's been here before, silent as a shadow, holding a small basket of herbs. She crushes lavender and rosemary between her palms, releasing a sharper scent into the air. You breathe it in, knowing that herbs can be both remedy and poison depending on who prepares them. Historians still argue whether certain queens were deliberately weakened over time with beauty tonics that slowly sapped their health. The line between care and control is as thin as the steam rising from your bath. The older attendant dips a fine brush into a ceramic bowl and paints a faint design along your forearm. It looks like nothing more than a flourish of saffron paste, but you recognize it as a charm ostensibly for protection, though it could just as easily be for influence. Here, symbols do double duty. You let her finish without comment. Sometimes it's safer to wear the mark than to question it. The ritual continues with a soft sponge dipped in perfumed oil. The oil smells faintly of sandalwood and clove, scents you've learned are reserved for high feast days and intimate gatherings. You remember that your husband's family favors clove for formal occasions. This is no coincidence. Whoever prepared this bath knew the language of scent politics. Another joke bubbles in your mind. Queens might need interpreters not for foreign tongues but for perfume recipes. When the attendants rinse you with warm rose water, you feel the shift in temperature as a kind of punctuation, the end of one act, the beginning of another. They wrap you in a length of unbleached linen, the fabric coarse enough to remind you that softness here is always optional. The milk, the gold, the perfume there for show. The linen is for truth. You're led to a small stool where your feet are dried and massaged with a paste of almond oil and crushed mint. It's a luxury, yes, but also an old-world diagnostic. The woman pressing her thumbs into your soles is checking your health without needing to ask questions. If she finds tension or tenderness, the news will travel faster than you can slip into your robe. And then comes the part you least expect. A whispered prayer. Not in the chapel, but right here, muttered by the youngest attendant as she smooths your hair. It's not the court's language. You recognize only fragments, but the tone is urgent, almost pleading. You pretend not to hear, though your mind tucks it away for later. Someone in this palace thinks you'll need protection from more than politics. As you rise, the older attendant sprinkles the last of the crushed lavender over the cooling water. She catches your eye, just briefly, and smiles in a way that makes you think she knows more than she lets on. You step away, leaving the bath behind, but you're aware that the scent of milk and gold will follow you for hours. That's part of the plan. Back in your chambers, a tray of honey cakes waits on the table. The steward says they're from the abbess of a nearby convent, a gesture of goodwill. You bite into one, the sweetness filling your mouth, and wonder if the abbess's goodwill includes the subtle medicinal tang you detect underneath. You eat the rest anyway. Sometimes, to keep the peace, you swallow what's offered and smile. Later, when you pass through the palace corridors, courtiers inhale as you walk by, catching the mix of milk, herbs, and sandalwood. They see the gold flecks still clinging to your skin. They read the signs without you saying a word. The queen is radiant. The queen is favored. The queen is prepared. The truth is simpler and sharper. The bath was not about cleanliness. It was about making you part of the palace's ongoing performance, one that will continue whether you like it or not. And you, standing here in warm skin and cool linen, are both the actor and the stage. The knock at your chamber door is soft, but in this palace, softness often means urgency. The chamberlain enters with a bow so deep, his forehead nearly grazes the floor. Behind him, two women carry trays draped in crimson cloth. One of them won't meet your eyes. The other looks at you too directly. You know this combination. A ceremony is coming, and it's one that blends superstition with politics until you can't tell which is the stronger ingredient. You are told, in the careful voice of someone reciting rules carved in bone, that tonight you will undergo the heir's crucible. The name sounds like a trial, and in a way it is. This rite is supposed to bless your fertility, binding your body to the kingdom's future as securely as any treaty. A mainstream fact you already knew. In many medieval courts, a queen's worth in the eyes of her in-laws hinged on producing heirs quickly, preferably male. This wasn't just biology, it was succession law, property rights, and military stability, all condensed into the span of a few years. The crimson cloths are lifted to reveal objects you've never seen together before. A silver basin, a small loaf of bread, stamped with the crest of the royal house, and a carved wooden figure of a woman swollen with child. The bread is to be eaten. The basin will be filled with water from a blessed well in the hills outside the capital. The figure will be placed at the foot of your bed for a full month. Historians still argue whether these rites were originally pagan customs absorbed into Christian courts, or whether they were Christian inventions draped in older symbols. What you do know is that everyone pretends to believe in them, because pretending is safer than questioning. The chamberlain explains the order. You will wash your hands and face in the basin, eat the bread without speaking, and then be wrapped in a length of embroidered cloth that once belonged to the king's grandmother. You make your first light joke to yourself. Nothing says romance like wearing a stranger's laundry. A fringe tidbit comes to mind: stories from a distant court where the bread was kneaded by 7 married women, each of whom had at least 3 children. It was believed their proven fertility could be passed into the dough. You wonder, not for the first time, whether the bread you're holding was made in the same fashion, and whether those women whispered anything into it while they worked. The basin arrives later that evening, carried by 2 men who walk as if they're holding a relic. The water is clear, but there's a faint scent to it, something mineral, with a sharp edge that makes you think of stones scraped by iron. You dip your hands in, and the coolness climbs your arms like a shiver. The chamberlain watches closely, perhaps to ensure you follow the steps, perhaps to memorize your expressions. The bread is still warm, as if pulled from the oven moments ago. You take small bites, letting the crumb dissolve slowly, tasting honey and a whisper of anise. You imagine the women who baked it, their flour-dusted hands moving in a rhythm older than this kingdom. Another joke nudges at you. In this court, even carbs have a political agenda. The embroidered cloth is brought out last. It's heavy, smelling faintly of cedar and age. Gold thread runs through it in swirling patterns that look almost like vines, almost like veins. The 2 women who carried the trays earlier now lift the cloth together and wrap it around you from shoulders to knees. The weight is more than physical. It's a reminder that your role here is to carry the dynasty forward. One of the women murmurs a short blessing in the old tongue, the same one you heard in the bath the day before. This time you catch more of it. A plea for strength, a plea for protection. You meet her eyes, and she doesn't look away. That's when you realize the blessing might not be for the ceremony at all. It might be for you. When the rites are complete, the chamberlain bows again and leaves, the 2 women following silently. You're alone now. The carved figure of the pregnant woman resting at the foot of your bed, her wooden eyes closed as if in dream. The room feels different, heavier, like the air has been draped in the same cloth that still clings to your shoulders. You lie back, staring at the figure, and think about how every object in this palace can be both symbol and snare. The bread, the water, the cloth, their offerings, yes, but also measurements. They watch how you hold them, how you eat, how you react, and somewhere, someone will record it all. Your last thought before sleep is half a prayer, half a promise. If they insist on testing you, you'll learn to pass their trials in ways they don't expect. You close your eyes, the scent of cedar still in your nose, and listen to the faint echo of footsteps retreating down the hall. The chamber is dim, except for the glow of 2 oil lamps when you wake, and the sense of being watched is immediate. You've grown used to the silent gaze of courtiers in the daylight. But this is different, more focused, more deliberate. In the corner, by the carved walnut screen, stands one of the king's chamberlains. He inclines his head politely, but doesn't speak. You know without being told that he has been here longer than you've been awake. You've heard the term trusted servants before, but in this court it means something sharper. These are not the fawning attendants who brush your hair or bring your meals. These are the shadow witnesses, keepers of secrets, collectors of small details, and occasional architects of ruin. A mainstream fact, unvarnished. In many medieval palaces, chamberlains held more actual influence than lesser nobles. They managed access to the monarch, oversaw the inner rooms, and often acted as quiet enforcers of the royal will. The chamberlain steps forward just enough to be inside the halo of lamplight. His voice is low, practiced, as if every word has already been weighed. There are matters you should be aware of, Your Grace. He does not explain why these matters must be discussed before dawn, nor why they cannot wait for the king. You make light joke number 1 to yourself. Nothing good ever starts with someone looming in your bedroom at sunrise. He mentions a visiting envoy who will request a private audience with you. He says the king approves, but his eyes are measuring your reaction as much as your answer. This is the chamberlain's art information wrapped in subtle testing. You know the visit will be more than courtesy. The envoy is from a province rumored to have backed a rival claimant to the throne. Meeting them could be a show of unity, or it could be bait. Historians still argue whether such audiences were genuine diplomacy or staged theatre designed to draw out potential threats. From the hallway beyond, you hear the quiet scrape of leather boots. Another shadow, another watcher. This one doesn't enter. Instead, a tray is brought in by a young page, warm wine in a silver cup, slices of quince on a ceramic plate. You recognize the page. His uncle controls the palace stables. The wine will taste of cinnamon and clove, the fruit of honey and vinegar, but it's the delivery that matters. The chamberlain watches you take the cup, notes which hand you use, how much you drink, whether you eat before speaking. All of it is recorded somewhere, even if only in his mind. A fringe tidbit resurfaces. In one court you heard about, chamberlains would deliberately change small details in a queen's daily routine, swap the placement of a goblet, switch the sequence of attendants just to see if she noticed. Those who did were respected, even feared. Those who didn't were quietly marked as malleable. You decide to finish the wine slowly, acknowledging the change without naming it. The chamberlain produces a folded parchment sealed with dark blue wax. He doesn't hand it to you. He places it on the table at your side, as if to remind you he controls not just the message but the moment you open it. When you break the seal, the script is small and neat. It's a poem, an innocuous love poem about a hawk returning to its keeper, but you know the lines are a code. The sender is someone who has used this metaphor before, someone whose allegiance is uncertain. You slide the parchment under the edge of a book, the movement casual, the meaning deliberate. Another light joke slips in as you glance at the chamberlain. He might be the only person who could ruin your life and fold your laundry in the same hour. You're not wrong. When he finally leaves, you think the air will feel lighter, but it doesn't. The chamberlains of this palace are like shadows on a cloudy day, never fully gone, never fully visible. You recall another mainstream truth. Their authority comes not just from their loyalty to the crown, but from what they know about everyone else. A king can order, but a chamberlain can remember. Later in the morning, you pass two of them in the corridor. They step aside with perfect courtesy, but you notice the faintest exchange of glances. You wonder what has been said about you in rooms you will never see. That's when you understand the real weight of their presence. They are not merely servants, they are the palace's memory, and they decide which memories survive. The rest of the day feels subtly altered, as if every corridor you walk is a stage they've designed. Courtiers greet you with unusual warmth, as though they've been primed to notice you. Even the cooks send an extra dish at supper, a spiced lamb stew, rich and comforting. The gift is nice. The reason for it is unknown. That night, as you prepare for bed, you catch sight of a shadow just beyond the lamplight near your door. It doesn't move, and you don't call out. You simply close your eyes, knowing that whether you're awake or asleep, you are never truly unwatched. And in this place, the people who see everything are the ones you can never afford to ignore. You walk the long gallery and realize the palace loves you like a very expensive birdcage. The windows are tall, the panes cut to throw sun in perfect diamonds across the parquet. And for one dizzy second it looks like freedom spilled on the floor. Then you notice the footman placed at each door, the curtains parted just so, the way your path zigzags through splendor, as if beauty itself were a velvet rope. You move in measured steps, your bead-threaded braids murmuring ahead of you like a soft bell. The gallery obliges by reflecting you back. A queen multiplied, a queen contained. A herald appears as if conjured, announcing the hour for your customary promenade. The phrase is gentle, the schedule is iron. You know now that your walks are never about exercise, they are about visibility. You pass tapestries in which hunting hounds strain against leashes. It is hard not to laugh at the symmetry. Light joke number 1 arrives on cue. At least the dogs get leather straps. You get etiquette. At the stair landing, the master of the keys bows and falls into step, a discreet 2 paces behind. He is the keeper of locks and of the stories that cling to them. The clatter at his belt is modest because most doors in your world do not need metal. They need permission. A mainstream fact, noted in household ordinances across medieval courts. Queens lived at the centre of elaborate apartments with strict access routes. The privy chamber formed a narrow bottleneck of attendants and officers. Who could cross a threshold was policy and lace gloves, and the right to stand even one doorway closer to you could be the difference between exile and influence. You cut through the oratory passage, the air cooler here, and watch a page press a dollop of wax against a door seam, then mark it with the signet of the chamber. The wax hardens to a little moon. Tomorrow someone will check that moon for cracks. Doors sealed at sunset. Doors inspected at sunrise. Safety wears the same outfit as surveillance. You store the image beside the memory of the bedding cloth and the carved mother figure. Everything is a checkpoint that calls itself tradition. Your husband meets you at the cloister walk with a polite smile that still smells of matins. You clasp hands. You exchange the commonplaces that courts eat for breakfast. Weather. A poem the young courtier wrote about hawks. The rumour of a new treaty. You both know the conversation is not private. The cloister magnifies whispers the way a shell magnifies the sea. You choose your words as if laying tiles. He does the same. Two artisans of restraint. Beyond the cloister, a small interior garden waits with espaliers of pear trees pinned flat against warm stone. Their branches look as if trained into obedience. You pause in the shade and let the leaves tap a soft rhythm on your shoulders. A gardener appears and vanishes with the quiet skill of a monk. You want to ask if he prefers pruning to politics. You swallow the question. Light joke number 2 settles for a private airing. At least the trees are allowed to be watered when they look thirsty. A lady of the bedchamber brings a tiny, folded note in a basket of violets. The note is harmless on its face. It mentions a hem and a seam that needs mending. The seam is not fabric. You respond with a smile and a nod for the flowers. In the gilded cage, messages perch like finches and pretend to be birdsong. Somewhere a chamberlain is counting how many petals you lift to your nose. An older dowager joins your walk. She tells a story about the queen 2 reigns back who used to stand at this very window to watch the first snows. The tale is shaped like nostalgia but functions like instruction. Queens stay near windows. Queens learn to love views with bars made of protocol. Historians still argue whether such restraint protected royal women from factional violence or simply immobilized them so factions could work without interference. You do not argue. You keep walking. The master of the keys peels away as you approach a small vaulted door. He gestures and a maid unlatches it. The room beyond is the jewel closet. Boxes nest inside boxes. Velvet on cedar, silk on carved oak. Gold gleams like captive sunlight. You have the right to select your adornments. You do not have the right to be here alone. You choose a delicate girdle, worked with pomegranates. The symbol reads fertility to most eyes. To yours it reads seeds hidden in a firm skin. You smile at your own translation. A fringe tidbit floats up as the girdle settles around your waist. In one court, so the story goes, the queen's night door was secured with a stitched ribbon rather than a bolt. The ribbon was embroidered by her women every evening with a new motif. If the stitch pattern did not match come morning, everyone knew a key had slipped where it should not. A lock that tattles in silk. You believe it. You also believe you are not supposed to. You leave the jewel closet and pass the chapel again. A scribe at a little desk scratches entries into the household roll. Who entered which room? Who ate which dish? Who lingered by which window? The palace writes you all day long. You trail a paper shadow in the shape of compliance. It occurs to you, with a thin smile, that the archive is another cage. Light joke number 3 taps politely. If you ever do escape, it will take 3 archivists and a cart to carry your footprints. After the noon meal, the steward presents a list of entertainments approved for the afternoon. Music in the West Loggia, falconry practice from the East Tower, a lesson in devotional embroidery with the abbess. The choices look like freedom the way a painted door looks like an exit. You pick embroidery because needles are quiet and thread remembers the path you tell it to take. While the abbess teaches a new border of tiny vines, you let your fingers practice control that no guard can see. Stitch, breathe, resist, repeat. When the sun tips and the gallery goes amber, the walking reverses itself. The same halls, the same thresholds, the same wax moons on the evening doors. Yet the light changes everything. The gems in the wall mosaics turn dark honey. The tapestries flatten to shadow. You feel how a day can be a circle disguised as a line. Beauty has led you again to the center, where the cage is strongest and softest. One more mainstream note lands as you reach your chamber. In many realms, a queen's movements beyond the palace required layers of permission, progresses to shrines, visits to dowager relatives, entries into cities staged with choreographed spectacle and timed greetings. Travel existed, but only as theatre. The road was a ribbon unfurled by other hands. You press your palm against your chamber door and imagine a road that begins with your own gesture. Inside, the pregnant wooden figure keeps its post at the bed foot, eyes closed, patience endless. The carved belly glows in the last light. You set your girdle on a chair and watch the shadow lattice of the window slide along the floor. It cages your slippers. It cages your breath. It cages this thought that creeps in and refuses to leave. Captivity is not only about walls. It is about paths drawn for you so beautifully that you forget to dream of new ones. You open the window a little wider and let the evening air move the curtain. It smells of river and smoke and the bite of cold iron from the smithy yard. Somewhere a boy runs with a loaf under his arm and no one writes it down. You stand very still. You count to 9. You make a map in your head of corners, where the watchers are laziest, and of doors whose wax moons melt a little quicker under lamplight. You do not tell anyone. You fold the map and tuck it into the pocket of your calm. When the maid comes to light the candles, you are already smiling. The gilded cage glitters. You let it. You also keep the window cracked just enough for the night to whisper in, a thin ribbon of anything that is not scheduled. It is a small rebellion. It is also practice. The palace hums differently as dusk deepens, a murmur in the walls that presses closer to your skin. It's a steady pulse, the rhythm of power, the pulse of every unseen servant, every whispering chamberlain, and every courtier who exists in the shadow of their monarch's gaze. You know the feeling of being watched even when no eyes are on you. You know it because the palace teaches you how to feel the weight of others' attentions long before they make their presence known. Tonight, there's a ball scheduled in honor of the visiting envoy. The air is thick with formality, and the grand hall is already set for the occasion. Pillars swathed in velvet, the long table adorned with silver goblets and sparkling crystal. The scent of honeyed wine and roasted meat fills the air, and the faintest hint of jasmine lingers like a promise. The echo of distant music makes its way through the corridors, and you recognize the fine balance between celebration and subjugation. The bright lights of a ball are designed to distract, to make the court forget it is still a cage, one gilded and well kept, but a cage nonetheless. Your gown is rich with color, crimson and gold, embroidered with threads that glitter like promises, but it feels heavier than it should. The weight of it settles over your shoulders, as though it were a reminder, not of royalty, but of the duties that come with it. To wear a crown is to carry the past and the future, to bind your very being to the expectations of an entire kingdom. Every movement, every glance, every smile must be measured, even as the air grows thick with the scent of wine and the allure of soft music. As you step into the ballroom, the eyes of the court turn toward you like the opening of a book, each person waiting to read you in a single glance. The murmurs that ripple through the room carry as much weight as any written decree. A queen's presence is a decree, too unspoken but understood. The envoy watches, his smile as practiced as the king's, his bow as smooth as the movements of a dancer. The high-ranking noblemen and women smile, their teeth like polished ivory. You know they're sizing you up, calculating how the evening will unfold, what alliances will be made, what secrets might be whispered. You greet the envoy with the formality expected of you, but the weight of his presence lingers longer than it should. His gaze lingers on you in ways that are not immediately obvious, and his smile seems just a little too smooth, just a little too eager. Historians still argue whether such figures were truly agents of diplomacy or if they were just another arm of political maneuvering, attempting to weave themselves into the fabric of royal life in a way that ensured their influence would outlast their visit. Tonight, however, it's the dancing that calls your attention. The court has a strict set of rules about how each dance is performed, who leads and who follows, which hands are placed where, and which movements signify submission or power. You've learned the steps, each one as predictable as the rhythm of a drum. But tonight, something is different. The music flows with an undercurrent of tension, a restless energy that makes you acutely aware of the eyes on you, the eyes that never fully leave. Every turn in the dance feels like a test, each step a measure of your composure. As you spin, your feet seem to move on their own, guided by the same invisible hands that steer the court's intricate choreography. One dance ends, but you do not release your partner's hand. Instead, you move into a quieter section of the room, far from the crowded floor. It is here, in the shadows, that you see him, a figure who does not belong. A man whose clothes do not fit the customary elegance of the court, whose eyes are too sharp, too calculating. He is not a diplomat. He is not a nobleman. He is something else entirely. Your heart beats faster, but your face remains impassive, as it always must. This man has come to deliver a message, one that is wrapped in mystery, perhaps even danger. You know, instinctively, that his appearance here is not a coincidence. In a place where every movement is monitored, every exchange is a part of a greater strategy, he is an anomaly. A fringe tidbit from a past reign echoes in your mind, a rumor of a rogue diplomat who infiltrated the court under the guise of a performer, only to reveal, at the height of a royal celebration, that he had been sent by the king's enemies to sow distrust. The history books laugh off such stories as fables, but you know that in this world, everything is possible. You exchange a brief glance with the man, and something unspoken passes between you. A message, a warning. His lips do not move, but his eyes tell you all you need to know. You keep your composure, but in the back of your mind, you begin to prepare for what might be coming. The night continues, and the steps of the dance grow slower, more deliberate. The court resumes its performances, but now, beneath the shimmering surface of the ball, something darker stirs. You feel it in the air, a shift in the wind, the way the light plays tricks on the floor, the way the shadows stretch and grow, as if they too are trying to escape the weight of the court's gaze. When the ball finally winds down, and the courtiers begin to leave, you return to your chambers. The weight of the gown feels unbearable now, a physical manifestation of the pressure that weighs down on you. As you remove it, piece by piece, you realize something. The court may think it holds all the cards, but you, in your silence and subtlety, hold the power to reshape the game. The gilded cage may be beautiful, but it is still a cage. The walls are closing in, but you are learning to use them to your advantage. Your mind races as you lay the gown aside. The evening's mystery is just the beginning. There are layers to this palace, layers that go deeper than the velvet curtains and gold leaf. And you, Queen, are learning to see them all. The morning light creeps through the high windows of your chamber, but it doesn't feel like daylight. It feels like a signal. The shadows are deeper, longer, and you can't quite shake the feeling that the entire palace has been holding its breath since last night. The weight of the previous evening's events hangs over you like a second skin. Even the air feels thicker, heavier, as if everything is holding in place, waiting for the next move. Your first thought upon waking is of the man in the ballroom, the one who didn't belong, the rogue figure who passed through the crowd unnoticed but left an imprint on your mind. You can't afford to forget him. You can't afford to dismiss the quiet warning in his eyes. Your hand instinctively reaches for the small vial of oil that rests on the nightstand, a blend of rosemary and lavender that calms the nerves but never quite erases the scent of danger. You rub it into your wrists, inhaling deeply, and for a moment, the tension in your body relaxes, if only a little. But relaxation is a luxury you cannot afford. The palace hums with rumors, some whispered between the cracks of the polished stone, others too loud to ignore. They swirl around you, these whispers, as you walk through the halls. They talk of discontent in the provinces, of alliances fraying at the edges. They speak of men who would claim the crown with no regard for the bloodline. And yet, the court's official face is always the same: smiles, laughter, feasts, and gowns. The chamberlain appears early, as always, with a message. His bow is deeper today, and his gaze lingers just a fraction longer than it should. You take the parchment from his hand and break the seal. The letter is short, a reminder that your presence is requested at a private council with the king. But there is something in the wording, the subtle shift in phrasing, that makes your stomach tighten. It's not just a summons. It's an invitation to a game you're not entirely sure you want to play. You pause, letting the weight of the message settle on your shoulders. The walls of the palace feel suddenly closer, and the air thicker still. You know the rules of this game, and you've learned them well. But it's one thing to navigate the delicate balance of politics, and another to be called to the table by those who wield the most dangerous power. The thought gnaws at you as you prepare for the meeting. The familiar rituals of the morning, choosing your gown, setting your hair, the scent you'll wear, the jewelry that will mark you as a queen but also as an agent of the crown's will, are all part of this performance. You've learned the steps over the years, each one more ingrained than the last. But today, they feel like preparation for something darker, something you can't yet name. The meeting is set in a small, private room, the kind that's rarely used except for matters of great importance. You walk through the long, echoing halls, the click of your heels against the stone floor like a countdown to something that feels inevitable. The chamberlain accompanies you, walking a few paces behind, his presence both silent and oppressive. You can feel the weight of his watchful eye, but it's the heavy silence between the two of you that speaks volumes. When you reach the room, the door opens without a word. The king is already inside, seated at the long table where important matters are settled, or in your case, where they are decided for you. His posture is relaxed, but there's something about his expression that immediately tells you this is no ordinary meeting. He doesn't greet you with the usual smile, the one he reserves for public appearances. Instead, he nods briefly, his eyes never leaving yours. You take your seat, maintaining your composure. The king speaks first. "You've heard the rumors," he says, his voice low, his words precise, as if they've been carefully measured. It's not a question, but an assertion. You nod, waiting for him to continue. They're growing louder. The murmurs of rebellion, of dissatisfaction. The provinces begin to feel abandoned. He leans forward slightly, his fingers tapping on the surface of the table. And there are those who think the crown should change hands. The words hang in the air, heavy with the weight of a threat. You understand now why you've been summoned. The court is not just a stage for performance. It is a battlefield, and the weapon is information. The whispers of rebellion aren't just rumors, they are calculated moves, pieces on a chessboard that could shift with the wrong word, the wrong gesture. The king studies you for a long moment, as though weighing something in his mind. His next words are quiet, almost a murmur. "There are those who would use you, my queen, to secure their place, and there are others who would see you gone, along with everything you represent." You feel a sudden chill, the weight of his words settling over you. You know what this means. This is not just a warning. It's an invitation to choose sides, an ultimatum disguised as a conversation. You are a pawn, but you have the power to choose which hand moves you. The question is whether you can survive the game without losing everything. You speak, your voice steady but carrying a note of something sharp. "I will not be moved like a piece on someone else's board, Your Majesty." The words sound defiant, even to your own ears, but they are the truth. You will not play this game without your own strategy. The king smiles then, the corners of his lips twitching upward just enough to make you wonder if he's testing you. "Good," he says simply. "I didn't expect anything less from you." The meeting continues, but you no longer hear the words. You are already planning your next move, already thinking 2 steps ahead, because this court is a game, and the only way to survive is to make sure you are always 1 step ahead of the others. When the meeting ends, You rise and leave the room, the weight of the king's words still pressing on your chest. You know now that the dance of power is not just about your movements, it's about reading the other players, understanding their intentions, and using their moves to your advantage. And as you walk back to your chambers, you begin to realize that your survival depends not just on the crown you wear, but on the games you're willing to play and the ones you refuse to. The corridors seem to close in around you as you make your way back to your chambers, the echoes of your footsteps bouncing off the cold stone walls. It's a strange feeling. The walls watching, always watching. Every door you pass, every servant you meet with their bowed head, all seem to measure you, weigh you, assess your next move. The weight of the meeting with the king still presses heavily on your chest, but there's something else now, an awareness, a sharpening of your senses. You understand now more than ever that this palace, with its marble floors and velvet drapes, is both a sanctuary and a prison, and you are bound to it by more than just your title. As you reach your chambers, the door opens before you even touch the handle. The maid steps back with a quiet, practiced bow. The room is still, the fire crackling softly in the hearth. The air smells of lavender and cedarwood, the scent of tranquility, but you know better than to trust it. The calm is a facade, a thin layer that covers the tension beneath. You take a deep breath and step inside, feeling the weight of the palace settle into your bones. The walls seem to pulse with the rhythm of the court, the whispers of the nobles, the schemes that unfold in the dark corners of the palace. You sit before the mirror, your reflection staring back at you with eyes that have grown accustomed to the game. You know what is expected of you, what roles you must play, what masks you must wear. The queen, the diplomat, the wife, each one is a performance, each one a part of a larger strategy. And now, with the king's words still echoing in your mind, you understand that survival in this court is no longer about just following the rules. It's about bending them, about using them to your advantage. You turn away from the mirror and approach the small writing desk where a few letters and documents lie. You've learned to keep your own correspondence discreet, hidden from prying eyes. But now, you have a decision to make. The letters you've received in recent days have been cryptic, and you know that they are connected to the undercurrent of unrest that runs through the provinces. The rebellion, the whispers of discontent, it's all tied together, and you're caught in the middle of it. The question is whether you can use the unrest to your advantage, or whether it will consume you. You pick up one of the letters, the seal still intact. It's from an old ally, a noblewoman from a neighboring region, who has been a loyal supporter of your family for years. Her words are carefully chosen, the language polite, but there's an unmistakable urgency to the message. The rebellion is growing, she says. The king's position is precarious. And you, as queen, are in a position to influence the outcome. But the decision must be made soon. As you read the letter, a cold realization settles over you. You are no longer just a queen in name. You are a player in a larger game, a game that involves not only alliances but betrayals. You know what you must do. The first step is clear. You need to meet with the rebel leaders. You need to understand their goals, their motivations, and, most importantly, their expectations. You place the letter back on the desk and stand up, walking to the window. The view from your chambers is beautiful, a sweeping vista of the kingdom. But tonight, it feels distant, almost irrelevant. You know now that the real power lies not in the kingdom outside, but within the walls of the palace, within the game you are playing with those who surround you. As you look out over the land, a thought occurs to you. Power, true power, is not given, it is taken, and you will take it, in whatever form it comes. But first, you must play the game, and play it better than anyone else. The faint sound of footsteps reaches your ears, and you turn to see your chamberlain standing at the door. His presence is a reminder that no part of this palace is ever truly private. He looks at you with a faint, unreadable expression, and for a moment, you wonder what he knows about the rebellion, what he knows about your plans. But you don't ask. Not yet. Instead, you simply nod and turn back to the window. signaling that you are ready to resume the performance. He steps inside, offering you a small tray of fresh fruit and a goblet of wine. You take the wine, swirling it gently before bringing it to your lips. The taste is sharp, rich, almost too rich, you think, but you swallow it anyway. The wine, like everything else, is part of the game, and you will play your part, no matter how complex or dangerous it becomes. As the chamberlain exits, you sit down at the desk once more, picking up a quill and setting it to the parchment. You begin to draft your reply to the noblewoman. Careful with your words. You must appear loyal, but you also need to prepare for what comes next. The rebellion is not just a threat, it is an opportunity, and you will seize it. You finish the letter and seal it with your signet ring. The wax cools slowly, and as it does, you feel a sense of finality settle over you. The choice has been made. The path forward is clear, but the price will be high. In this game, there are no winners, only those who survive. And you will survive, no matter the cost. You stand and move toward the door, the weight of the crown heavy on your head, but the fire in your chest burns brighter than ever. Tonight, you take control. Tonight, you make your move. The morning light comes quickly, chasing the shadows from the walls of your chamber, but it feels no more comforting than the night that preceded it. The moment your eyes open, you feel the weight of the decisions you've made, the letter now sealed, hidden beneath the careful layers of your day's attire. Today, you will walk a tightrope, balancing diplomacy with caution, power with restraint. The rebels, the king, your court, all of them will be watching. You can feel it in the air, the silent charge of expectation, as if the very stones of the palace know that everything is changing. The sound of footsteps outside your door doesn't surprise you. It never does. But this time, when the maid enters, she brings with her a small carved box, a gift. You take it from her hand, noting the delicate craftsmanship, the faint scent of rosewood. It's from a fellow noblewoman, one whose loyalty you've always trusted. But there's something in her eyes when she delivers it that makes you wonder, what is she asking of you? What will she need in return for this gesture? You open the box carefully, feeling its weight shift as you lift the lid. Inside, nestled in a bed of velvet, is a small vial of dark liquid. The scent is familiar, but you can't quite place it at first. Then it hits you, a strange combination of herbs, myrrh, and something more unsettling. Poison. The realization creeps through your mind like ice water. This gift, this innocent gesture, is not a gift at all. It is a message. The letter inside the box is simple, written in the same elegant hand you've come to expect from the noblewoman. It speaks of blessings, of protection, and of loyalty. But beneath the words, there is a quiet, underlying thread of something darker. For your peace of mind, it says, for the safety of the crown. The letter is a carefully worded lie, and you know it. Poison, whether literal or figurative, is being offered, and the question is not whether it's dangerous, but how it's meant to be used. You put the letter down, the vial still resting in your palm, and allow your mind to work. What could she want in return? What price is she willing to extract from you for her protection? Your thoughts are interrupted by the chamberlain's entrance. His eyes flick briefly to the box in your hand, then quickly avert. He knows, just as you know, that the palace operates on layers of information, each piece covered by others, hidden and revealed at will. The question, always, is which layer you choose to expose and which you choose to bury. He steps forward, offering you a new set of documents, an inventory of recent shipments, updates on diplomatic correspondence, and a note about a new alliance forming in the south. But as he hands you the papers, you notice a slight tension in his posture, a flicker in his gaze. He has something to say, but he won't speak it until you prompt him. "Anything else?" you ask, your voice low and measured, masking the storm of thoughts swirling in your mind. He hesitates, just long enough for you to sense the unease. "There have been reports," he says carefully, as though testing the waters, "of unrest in the outer provinces." The same whispers, "Your Grace." And one new rumor. You lean forward, the weight of the vial still in your hand. Tell me. The rumor concerns the envoy from the east. There are whispers that he has... He pauses, searching for the right words. That he has more than just diplomatic intentions. It seems that some believe he's here to stir discontent, to encourage rebellion. There are those who think he may be a spy for a rival house. The words hang in the air, a threat disguised as caution. It's the kind of rumor that could unravel everything. The envoy, the noblewoman's gift, the rebellion, everything is connected now. And every thread is pulling you deeper into a web. A web that you didn't weave, but one that you're now caught in, whether you like it or not. You set the vial down carefully, your fingers lingering on the edge. The Chamberlain watches you, waiting for your next move. You know that this is the moment where alliances are solidified or shattered, where the direction of the entire court could shift on a single word, a single action. You wonder, briefly, if you've already made the wrong choice, but quickly push the thought away. The court doesn't allow for doubt. I will speak with the envoy, you say, your voice steady, though every fibre of your being is alert. Tell him to prepare for an audience. It seems I have a few matters to discuss with him. The Chamberlain bows deeply, his eyes gleaming with something unreadable. As you wish, Your Grace. You stand, the weight of the crown pressing down on your brow, the weight of your decisions heavy on your chest. The game is now moving faster than you can track, and every move you make is a piece on the board. You must decide who you trust, who you manipulate, and who you eliminate. As you walk to the door, the Chamberlain remains behind, his figure still and silent. You close the door behind you, and for a moment, you let yourself breathe. The corridor ahead is empty, but you know it won't remain that way for long. Soon the hallways will fill with more players, more eyes, all of them waiting for you to make the next move, and you will make it. The dance continues. The game never ends, and you will play it better than anyone ever has. The court feels different as you prepare for the meeting with the envoy, as though the air itself has thickened in anticipation. The corridors seem to stretch longer than usual, the tapestries on the walls more oppressive, their threads whispering secrets you know you'll never fully unravel. But it doesn't matter. Not now. The hour of the meeting approaches, and the tension thick and palpable clings to your skin. Every moment now is a step closer to an encounter that could change everything. You don your most regal gown, a flowing garment of deep emerald green, embroidered with gold thread that catches the light just so, ensuring you shimmer with the weight of your station. Your hair is arranged with meticulous care, each strand positioned to perfection, framing your face in a way that conveys both authority and grace. The crown sits heavily on your brow, a constant reminder of the power and responsibility you carry. The Chamberlain enters, as expected, his expression unreadable, but his eyes carefully measuring you. His words are soft, calculated. The envoy has arrived, Your Grace. He waits in the receiving hall. You nod once, the decision made. It's time to face the storm head-on, to play the game as it is meant to be played. You move towards the door, and as you do, you feel the familiar pressure of the palace bearing down on you. You are the center of this stage, and every eye in the room will be fixed on you, measuring your every gesture. The hall is grand, the floor polished to a gleam, the high ceilings draped with rich tapestries depicting scenes of past victories. The envoy stands at the far end of the room, his back straight, his demeanor calm and composed. His eyes meet yours the moment you enter, a flicker of something unreadable passing across his face. His bow is deep, but there's something in his posture that suggests he doesn't see you as a mere queen. He sees you as something more, a pawn, a player, a piece in a much larger game. Your Grace, he says, his voice smooth, careful. It is an honor to finally meet you in person. You incline your head slightly, acknowledging his words without surrendering control. The honor is mine, envoy. I trust your journey was smooth. He smiles, but it doesn't reach his eyes. It was, Your Grace, though I have heard interesting things about the state of affairs here. His gaze lingers on you, almost too long. It's not just a statement. It's a challenge, a subtle, veiled jab, a reminder that he knows more than he should. and you realize in that moment that this meeting will not be a simple exchange of pleasantries. The game begins. You choose your words carefully, masking the undercurrent of suspicion that now swirls in your mind. Interesting things, you say. It is not often that my court is the subject of such attention. Perhaps you have heard rumors, envoy? Or perhaps you have been given a glimpse of the true heart of this palace. The envoy's smile deepens, though there's a flicker of something darker in his eyes now. Rumors, yes, but also truths. I have met many of your courtiers on my way here, your grace. They speak highly of you, of your wisdom, your strength. He pauses, letting the words hang in the air. But I have also heard whispers about the unrest in the provinces. Whispers that grow louder by the day. Whispers that suggest a shift in the winds of power. The words are weighted, carefully placed. He's testing you, pushing you to react. You know better than to let your guard down. And yet, for a brief moment, a flicker of something you can't quite identify crosses your mind. Is he playing a different game? Or is he simply testing the waters, seeing how much you will reveal? I have heard similar things, you reply, your voice steady. The crown faces challenges, as it always has. But a challenge is not the same as a threat, and threats, envoy, are best dealt with swiftly. The envoy tilts his head slightly, his smile tightening ever so slightly. He steps closer, closing the gap between you, his presence suddenly more imposing. Of course, your grace. But sometimes the greatest threats come from those who are closest to us. And sometimes the greatest risks are taken by those who appear to be the most loyal. The air thickens. The walls seem to press in around you. You know the game has changed. The stakes have been raised. And this man, this envoy, is not here simply to deliver a message. He is here to make his own move. And you? You are the one he must move around. A small laugh escapes your lips, more out of necessity than amusement. Loyalty, envoy, is a luxury. It is given when it serves a purpose, and it is taken away when it no longer does. You can feel the intensity of his gaze as he processes your words, weighing them as carefully as you've weighed his. Perhaps, he murmurs, stepping back ever so slightly. But loyalty, your grace, is also something that can be earned. And loyalty, once earned, is difficult to break. You say nothing for a moment, allowing his words to hang between you. He is still testing, still searching for your weaknesses. But you have learned, over the years, how to mask your vulnerabilities, how to keep your true intentions hidden behind a carefully constructed facade. I do not seek loyalty, envoy, you finally reply, your voice low and deliberate. I seek power. And in this palace, power is not earned by loyalty. It is seized by those who can command it. The envoy's smile falters for just a moment before he regains control. He knows now that you are not simply playing at diplomacy. You are playing for something much more dangerous. The game has shifted. And now, you both must navigate it carefully. He nods, a gesture of respect or perhaps of understanding. Power, your grace? Yes, I believe you understand it well. The tension between you is palpable, the silence thick with unspoken thoughts. You know that this meeting is far from over. The envoy may leave today, but his presence will linger in the shadows, watching, waiting. The whispers will grow louder, the stakes higher, and as the game continues, you must decide where you stand and who you stand with. As the meeting ends, you offer him a small nod, signaling the close of the conversation. But inside, you are already planning the next move, already calculating the risks. Because in this game there are no guarantees, only players. And you, Queen, have learned how to play. The evening settles over the palace like a heavy cloak, its coolness a stark contrast to the fire burning in the hearth of your chamber. The room is still, but your mind churns relentlessly, sifting through the words exchanged with the envoy. His visit was not a mere formality. It was a challenge, an invitation to dance in a game you've only begun to understand. You stand before the mirror, staring at the reflection that gazes back at you. The gown, once bright and sharp with the promise of regal authority, now seems a little too tight, the weight of its fabric a reminder of the burden you carry. You remove the crown, a slight weight lifted from your brow, but you know that the crown is never truly gone, not even when you take it off. It stays with you, etched into your bones, a constant reminder of what's at stake. The Chamberlain enters without knocking, his presence as inevitable as the sunrise. You glance at him briefly, noting the way his eyes flicker to your face, to the subtle tension that you can't quite mask. He's here with news, but he's also here to read you, to gauge your reaction. The palace runs on layers of information, and those who gather it hold the true power. "Your Grace," he says, his voice calm but carrying an edge of something you can't place. "The envoy has made his departure, but he left something for you. A message." He hands you a small scroll sealed with dark wax. The seal is unfamiliar, the markings cryptic but elegant. You break it carefully, your fingers not trembling but still keenly aware of the weight this letter carries. The envoy's words linger in your mind like a shadow. "Loyalty is earned," he had said. But loyalty can also be twisted, manipulated, and in this palace it is as much a currency as gold. You unfurl the scroll and read, the inked words sharp and deliberate. "To the Queen of this magnificent land, it was a pleasure to meet with you today. Your strength is clear, and your resolve is admirable. But as you well know, strength is not the only currency in this world. There are others who believe your throne is precarious, and they have made their plans. You may feel secure, but I must advise caution. What lies beneath your feet is not stone, but shifting sand. Do not forget that loyalty can be swayed, and that loyalty can betray. There are eyes watching, always watching." The letter ends there. No signature, no mark of any kind except for the dark wax seal. Your stomach tightens as you finish reading. This is not just a message, it's a warning, a subtle threat wrapped in the guise of advice. The envoy is not just a diplomat. He is a puppet master, pulling strings from afar, testing the boundaries of your power. The Chamberlain watches you closely, waiting for a reaction. You set the scroll down, taking a deep breath. "Is there anything else?" you ask, your voice steady, betraying none of the turmoil inside. He hesitates, but only for a moment. "There have been rumors. Word has reached the palace that there is unrest in the southern provinces, but there are whispers, Your Grace, that someone is stirring the pot. Someone who is not just a noble, but—" He pauses, looking uncertain, as if weighing whether to continue. "Someone from within the court itself." Your heart skips a beat. A traitor in the court? The thought sends a cold shiver down your spine. The court is full of scheming nobles, each one eager to climb over the next to gain favor. But a traitor, someone from within, changes everything. You nod, motioning for him to continue. "There are also whispers that the king himself is not as firm in his stance as he seems," the Chamberlain adds, his voice low. "Some believe that he may be more susceptible to influence than we thought. Some say he is already considering options." He leaves the rest unsaid, but the implication is clear. You rise, the weight of the room pressing on your chest. The crown may be a symbol of power, but power itself is fragile, like a flame in a storm. You have never been one to rely solely on the king's strength. You've always known that your own survival depended on building alliances, playing the game in ways no one else could see. "Who exactly is whispering these rumors?" you ask, your voice tight, controlling the rush of emotions swirling within you. The Chamberlain hesitates, then answers, "I believe it is the envoy from the East. He is not here simply to talk trade or alliances, Your Grace. He has deeper ties, connections to those who have much to gain from a shift in power." You nod slowly, piecing the puzzle together. The envoy is not just a visitor. He is a key player, and he is not here by accident. You have made your move by confronting him, but now you realize that it may have been only the first step in a much larger game. "Prepare a meeting with the envoy," you say, your voice calm but firm, "and make sure that every exit is watched. No one leaves without being seen. No one speaks without me hearing." The Chamberlain bows, his eyes flicking to the door before he exits. You stand in the silence of the room, your thoughts a whirlwind of strategies and countermoves. The king, the envoy, the rebellion, it's all interwoven now, and you must find the threads that will lead you to control. You sit at your desk and begin to draft a new letter, one that will send a message of your own. You will not be moved by whispers. You will not be intimidated by rumors. The envoy has played his hand, but you will play yours better. This court is not just a palace of stone and gold, it is a battlefield. And you, Queen, are preparing for war. When the letter is finished, you seal it with your signet, the wax cool and solid beneath your fingers. You know that in this game there are no second chances. There is only survival and power. The sun sets later than usual, casting a fiery orange glow across the palace gardens. From your chamber window, you can see the rich expanse of greenery stretching beneath the palace walls, its beauty belying the chaos hidden within. The evening air is thick with the promise of change, an unsettling, electric hum that fills the spaces between the walls. Your hand lingers on the window's edge, the cool stone a stark contrast to the fire that burns inside you. Every move you've made in the past few days has been part of a larger plan, one you're still piecing together. And yet, despite all your preparations, a feeling persists, gnawing at the edges of your mind. The feeling that you are playing a game that no one, not even you, fully understands. The envoy's letter sits on the desk, its words echoing in your mind. Loyalty can be swayed, loyalty can betray. The implications are clear. There are forces at play within the palace that you've yet to identify, and the more you uncover, the deeper you seem to sink into this intricate web. The envoy is but one part of a larger puzzle, but that puzzle has more pieces than you could have imagined. As the evening settles, the quiet knocks at the door remind you that your time for reflection is limited. The maid enters, her hands clasped in front of her, her eyes carefully avoiding yours. "Your Grace," she says, her voice soft but carrying an undercurrent of urgency. "There is someone waiting for you in the receiving hall. It's the king's steward." The king's steward. You've seen him before, of course, though never in a context this direct. The steward is not a man of many words, but he carries weight in his silence. The way he moves through the halls, the way courtiers nod their heads in quiet respect, it all tells you that he is a gatekeeper to more than just the royal chambers. He knows things that are better left unspoken. You stand from your desk, smoothing the folds of your gown, and walk toward the door. The steward is not a man who seeks unnecessary attention. Whatever message he carries must be significant, and you can already feel the weight of it pressing down on your chest. When you enter the receiving hall, he is standing by the fireplace, his back to you. His posture is rigid, formal, but there is something about the way he holds himself that suggests he is not merely here to deliver news. He turns as you approach, his expression carefully neutral. "Your Grace," he says, bowing deeply. "I come with a message from the king. He requests your presence immediately. There are matters that cannot wait." You nod, your heart quickening. The king's summons, especially when delivered through his steward, is not something to be taken lightly. The message, whatever it may be, is important. But what troubles you is the way the steward looks at you, his eyes sharp, almost too sharp, as if he's trying to read something in your expression that you're not ready to give. Without a word, you follow him down the long corridors, the sound of your footsteps muffled by the thick tapestries lining the walls. The palace feels even quieter tonight, as though the silence itself is watching, listening for any shift in the air. The steward leads you to the king's private study, a place where only a select few are ever allowed. The heavy oak door creaks open, and you step inside. The king is seated behind a large desk, his face partially illuminated by the glow of the fire. He looks up as you enter, his expression calm, but focused. "Ah, my queen," he says, his voice steady. "Please, come in. We have matters to discuss." You move toward the desk, your gaze lingering on the papers scattered across the surface. It's clear that the king has been deep in thought, his brow furrowed, his mind focused on something that is just out of reach. The weight of the situation presses down on you, but you've learned to mask your unease. "I trust you've been well?" he asks. A polite inquiry that feels more like an obligation than genuine curiosity. You know better than to believe that he's concerned for your well-being. There's always something else at play, something beneath the surface. "I have been," you reply, your voice even. "But I sense that you've called me here for more than just pleasantries, Your Majesty." The king's lips curve into a slight smile, though it's not one of warmth. "Indeed," he says, "I have received troubling reports, and I believe you may be the key to resolving them." You don't speak right away, instead waiting for him to elaborate. He gestures toward the papers on the desk, and you step closer to examine them. The first is a map of the kingdom, the borders marked with red ink. The second is a letter, the seal still intact, its contents unread. The third is a list of names, each one marked with a black cross. "The unrest in the provinces has grown worse," the king continues, his voice low. "It is not just rebellion. There are factions within my own court. Some believe they can take my throne. They believe they can do it through manipulation, through lies, and through alliances with those outside of the kingdom. They are all connected, and they will stop at nothing." Your mind races as the pieces begin to fit together. The envoy, the whispers of rebellion, the nobles who have been so quick to offer their loyalty. The web is much larger than you anticipated, and now it seems that the king is no longer as secure as you once believed. His power is slipping, and he knows it. "You've heard the rumors," the king continues, his voice colder now. "You know who they are. The names on this list, they are not just rebels. They are part of a larger plan. And I need you, my queen, to help me secure my position." You step back slightly, your mind working furiously. You've always known that loyalty is fragile. But this is something else entirely. The court is shifting, and the king's control is slipping from his grasp. This is no longer just about surviving. It's about taking control of the narrative, about positioning yourself at the right moment, in the right way. "I understand, Your Majesty," you say, your voice steady, "and I will do what must be done." The king nods, his gaze sharp. "Good. I knew I could count on you." But as you turn to leave, your mind is already working, plotting the next move in this dangerous game. The pieces are falling into place, but the danger is greater than you anticipated. The crown you wear is not a symbol of power. It is a symbol of the price you must pay to keep your enemies at bay. The weight of the king's words lingers long after you leave his study, thickening the air around you. The corridors feel quieter, more oppressive, as if the very stones themselves are holding their breath. You can feel the eyes of the court on you, even if you don't see them. The pressure is relentless, an invisible force pushing down, constricting. It's not just the rebellion in the provinces, not just the whispers of traitors and factionalism. It's the quiet realization that you, too, are now tangled in a web of power, deceit, and betrayal. You cannot escape it. The Chamberlain is waiting for you when you return to your rooms. His presence is always constant, but tonight it feels more significant than usual. His expression a mixture of concern and calculation. "You've heard," he says, his voice low, as if speaking too loudly might somehow betray the secrets swirling around them. "Of the king's request?" You nod. The words are out in the open now, unspoken but understood. The rebellion is growing, but it is not just the provinces. The true battle lies within the palace itself, and the king knows it. But what does he really want from you? Loyalty? Protection? Or is it simply a pawn to secure his throne, just one more piece to be sacrificed when the game reaches its inevitable conclusion? "I have heard," you reply, keeping your voice steady, "and I will act on it." The Chamberlain steps forward, placing a heavy, sealed envelope in your hand. The wax seal is familiar, the dark, intricate design, a sign of someone high in the court. "This came for you," he says, his eyes not meeting yours. It's not unusual for letters to arrive from noble houses or distant allies, but this one feels different. The scent of lavender and parchment clings to the seal, a strange mixture of familiarity and foreignness. You break the seal and unfold the letter, your eyes scanning the neatly written words. "Your Grace, I trust this letter finds you well. I write to you not only as a friend, but as someone who has long supported your reign. The events of the last few days have brought much to light, and I feel it is my duty to share what I know. There are those within the palace who seek to see the king's power diminished, perhaps even removed entirely. But there are also those who will support you, should you decide to take control. The decision is yours to make, but be cautious. The game is moving faster than you think. Do not wait too long to act. It's signed with a name you do not recognize. The room feels colder as you reread the letter, the implications settling over you like a shadow. The game is moving faster than you think. That line sticks with you. You've always known this palace is a place of secrets. But this is a new level of manipulation. Someone in your court is trying to pull you into their own designs, offering you an alliance that could either solidify your position or send you crashing down. What is it? The Chamberlain asks, his voice betraying the curiosity he tries to mask. You place the letter down carefully, your mind already working through the options. It seems I have more allies than I thought. The Chamberlain's eyes flicker for a moment, and he steps closer. You have no allies here, Your Grace. Not really. Only pieces on a board, and some are more dangerous than others. You meet his gaze, feeling the weight of his words. I am aware. The letter's mystery lingers in your mind, but there is little time to waste. The court is shifting, and you must move quickly. Each decision now carries more weight than before. You cannot afford to trust anyone entirely, not the king, not the envoy, and certainly not the mysterious figure who has sent this letter. The next few days are a blur of meetings and whispered conversations. You play the role of the dutiful queen, attending every dinner, every council, every gathering that may offer you an advantage. The envoy's face is still fresh in your mind, his challenge lingering at the edges of your thoughts. His warning echoes, loyalty can be swayed, loyalty can betray. And you know that, in the game you're playing, the true question is not who remains loyal to you, but who will serve their own interests when the time comes. It's late one evening, after a particularly tense dinner with several nobles, when you find yourself standing alone in the royal garden. The moonlight casts long shadows across the stone paths, the quiet broken only by the occasional rustle of leaves. You take a deep breath, the cool night air filling your lungs. There is something grounding about the solitude, the feeling of being away from the constant eyes of the court, even if only for a brief moment. But you are not alone for long. A shadow moves at the far end of the garden, and when you turn, you see him, one of the king's most trusted advisors, a man known for his political savvy and ruthlessness. He steps forward, his footsteps deliberate, and you recognize the quiet confidence in his movements. You should not be here alone, Your Grace, he says, his voice soft but insistent. The palace is not a place for moments of solitude, especially not now. You straighten, not surprised by his presence. I need no protection, you reply, though there's a slight edge to your voice. But I'm sure you didn't come to offer me safety. He smirks, the faintest flicker of amusement in his eyes. No, Your Grace. I came to offer you something much more valuable. Information. There are whispers of betrayal, of a shift in the balance of power. He pauses, letting the words settle. The question is, will you act before it's too late? The garden feels even quieter now, the air thick with the weight of his words. You stand there for a moment, considering the man before you. You've learned not to trust easily, not in this palace. But perhaps he's offering you the only thing that matters right now, an ally, a piece that could shift the game in your favor. What are you proposing? You ask, your voice cool, controlled. He steps closer, his gaze steady. The time has come to decide who will rule, and it's not the king. It never was. The words hang in the air, heavy with the promise of something greater. You know the stakes now. You know the game. The question is no longer whether you will survive. It's whether you will take control of it all. You nod once, the decision made. I will act, you say, your voice a whisper in the moonlit night, and I will do so on my terms. The garden, the palace, the rebellion, they all seem smaller now, insignificant in the face of what you must do. The game is yours to win, but only if you are willing to take what is rightfully yours. The palace feels alive in a way it never has before. Every creak of the floorboards, every whisper in the corridors, a reminder that the game you are playing has no rules except those you make for yourself. The weight of the decision you've just made hangs in the air, pressing down on your chest with every breath. You know what you have to do, but the cost of it feels heavier than any crown could ever be. The advisor's words still linger in your mind, and you know now that he is not merely an observer. He's a player, just like you, perhaps even more dangerous because of his proximity to the throne. He knows the court, its weaknesses, its secrets, and he is offering you a way in. The question is whether you trust him, or if, like the others, he is just another player looking to use you. The days blur together in a haze of meetings and preparations. Your every move is watched, every word weighed, and the strain is starting to show. Even the smallest gesture could be misinterpreted, twisted into something it's not. You're not just playing the game now, you're preparing for war. You meet with the nobles, with the courtiers, but you are no longer the queen they see in public. That woman, the one they expect to smile and nod, to listen and agree, is fading away. In her place is someone sharper, someone who understands the cost of power. That night, as you retire to your chambers, you can't shake the feeling that you are being watched. The palace, once a familiar and comfortable place, now feels like a maze of mirrors, each reflection showing you a different version of yourself. Some of them are allies, some are enemies. You can't tell which is which anymore. You walk to your desk, your fingers brushing over the cold surface. The papers from the king's study are still there, the map of the kingdom, the list of names, the letter from the mysterious sender. The weight of it all feels unbearable, but you know that you can't stop now. The game is moving too quickly, and you're running out of time. The sound of footsteps outside your door interrupts your thoughts, and you turn, your eyes narrowing slightly. The chamberlain enters, his face as unreadable as always. There is no greeting, no pleasantries, only a single word. Tonight. The tension in your chest tightens. You know what he means. The rebellion, the traitors, the pieces on the board tonight. The game begins in earnest. You nod, your mind already calculating the moves that must be made. You have the message? You ask, your voice low and steady, betraying none of the urgency you feel inside. He steps forward, handing you a sealed envelope. The wax is dark, almost black, and the seal is unfamiliar. You break it, your heart racing as you unfold the letter. Your Grace, the time has come to act. The king's power is no longer secure. His reign is weak, and those who have supported him are beginning to falter. You have the support you need, but only if you act now. The throne is yours for the taking. Do not wait too long, or it will be taken from you. The letter is brief, but its message is clear. Tonight, you make your move. There's no turning back now. The stakes have never been higher. You take a deep breath, steeling yourself for what's to come. This is the moment. The palace is a battlefield, and you are no longer a pawn. You are the queen, and it's time to take what's rightfully yours. The chamberlain watches you, his eyes sharp, as if waiting for a sign, a signal. He knows what you are about to do, but he's not here to offer support. He's here to make sure you succeed or fail. There's no in-between in this game. Make sure the doors are locked, you say, your voice a whisper of command, and send word to the others. Tonight we end this. The chamberlain bows deeply, and without another word, he exits, leaving you alone with the letter. Your fingers trace the words once more, each letter solidifying your resolve. You will act. You will take control. And you will make sure that no one can stop you. The rest of the night passes in a blur of planning, of final preparations. You know where to go, who to meet, what to say. The court is yours for the taking, and no one can stand in your way. The sound of footsteps returns, this time with purpose. You rise, your heart steady now. The weight of the crown no longer a burden but a tool, a weapon. You make your way to the door, your fingers brushing the cold metal of the handle. Tonight, the game ends. The moment you step outside, The air is heavy with anticipation. The streets of the palace eerily quiet, as if holding their breath. You move quickly, your steps deliberate, the shadows hiding you as you make your way to the meeting place. You know that once this night is over, there will be no going back. The pieces will fall where they may, and you will be the one standing at the end. The door opens before you even touch it, and there they are, your allies, your pieces, waiting for you. Is everything ready? You ask, your voice calm, commanding. One by one, they nod. It's time, one of them says, his eyes filled with certainty. You smile. It's time to take what's yours. The atmosphere is thick with a kind of anxious energy as you move through the darkened hallways, your footsteps barely audible against the stone floor. The palace is strangely quiet. The usual hum of daily life, muted under the weight of what's about to unfold. You can feel the tension in the air, thick and charged, like the moment just before a storm breaks. Tonight, you will take control or lose everything. There is no middle ground, no safety net. You've made your choice, and now the court will have to play by your rules. You reach the hidden door at the far end of the hallway, the one you've used in the past for discreet meetings. The guard standing watch bows his head in deference, a quiet acknowledgement of your status, though you know he's not unaware of what's happening tonight. The palace has its eyes everywhere. Inside, the room is dim, lit only by the faint flicker of a few lanterns. The shadows seem to stretch longer here, the high ceilings making the space feel cavernous and claustrophobic all at once. You take a deep breath, steadying yourself. You've been preparing for this moment for months, but the weight of it is still heavy in your chest. This is not just about the king, the envoy, or the rebellion. This is about your future, your legacy, and the throne that has always been more of a cage than a crown. The room is filled with those you trust, or at least those you've decided to trust for now. The chamberlain stands at the center, flanked by a few familiar faces from the court. All of them are waiting for you to speak, to give them the signal to move forward. You've assembled your allies carefully, picking those who share your vision or those who simply believe they'll gain more by following you than anyone else. You approach them, your gaze sweeping over their faces. They're all men and women of power, each one calculating their own moves even as they stand beside you. They know what's at stake. They know what needs to happen. Tonight, you begin, your voice cutting through the silence. We take what is ours. The rebellion in the provinces is just the beginning. The king's power is slipping, and the whispers in the court grow louder by the day. We will be the ones to shape this kingdom. No more waiting, no more half measures. A murmur ripples through the group, and you see a few nods of agreement. But there are also eyes that linger, faces that hesitate. Some of them are not as certain as they let on. The doubt is there, simmering just beneath the surface. You can feel it, and it unsettles you more than you care to admit. One of the nobles, a man with sharp eyes and a voice that always seems to command attention, steps forward. "Your Grace," he says, bowing slightly but with the kind of respectful challenge that always precedes a political maneuver. "The king may not be as strong as he once was, but there are still forces loyal to him. The nobles in the south, for instance. If we make our move too soon, we risk dividing the kingdom even further. We must wait for the right moment. We can't risk alienating those who might still support us." You feel a flash of irritation, but you keep it in check. He's right, of course, but you know waiting is a luxury you no longer have. The longer you hesitate, the more dangerous the situation becomes. There is no waiting. Not anymore. "We move now," you say firmly, your voice steady and resolute. "We can't afford to wait. The longer we hesitate, the more we risk losing control. We must strike while the tension is high, while the rebellion is already sowing seeds of discord in the provinces. The king's position is vulnerable. The longer we wait, the more likely it is that someone else will take advantage of that vulnerability." The man looks at you, his expression calculating, but after a moment he nods, conceding the point. "Very well, Your Grace. But if we do this, we need to act decisively. There can be no turning back." You meet his gaze, unflinching. "There will be no turning back." The rest of the group falls into agreement. each one aware of the consequences of failure. You can't afford mistakes, not now. You've been playing this game for too long to let it slip through your fingers at the final moment. The crown is yours for the taking, but only if you act with precision. You turn to the Chamberlain, who's been watching quietly from the side. "Everything is in place?" you ask, your voice sharp. He bows slightly, his expression unreadable. "Yes, Your Grace. The letters have been sent, the guards are in position, and the allies in the provinces are ready to move at your command. The envoy has been dealt with as per your instructions. We are prepared." The air in the room shifts at his words, and you sense the weight of what's been set in motion. The envoy, the one who'd been playing his own game, will no longer be a threat. His role in this palace is finished. His betrayal, if it can even be called that, will go unnoticed by most, but not by you. He had been testing you, but you've outplayed him. The pieces are all falling into place. You take a step back, surveying the group. "Then it begins," you say, your voice quiet but full of finality. "Tonight, we take what is ours, and no one, not the king, not the rebels, not any of them will stand in our way." The room is silent for a moment, the gravity of your words settling in. But then, one by one, they begin to nod, their faces hardening with resolve. The game is no longer a game. It is war, and you are ready to fight for what you deserve. The Chamberlain steps forward again, offering a final piece of information. "There is one last matter, Your Grace. A message from the provinces. They are ready to move as soon as we give the word. But there's one more player we must consider. Someone in the king's inner circle has begun to suspect our actions. They're watching us. You feel the stirrings of concern, but you hide it well." "Who?" He hesitates, then names a familiar face, the king's most trusted advisor, the one who has been whispering in his ear for years, the one who has the ear of the nobility, who commands loyalty from those who would otherwise question the king's rule. "He must be dealt with," you say, your voice hard. "Make it so. Tonight, the court will feel the weight of your decisions. Tonight, you'll stake your claim. And tomorrow, the kingdom will belong to you, or it will fall apart trying." The palace feels colder as the night deepens. The echo of your footsteps on the stone corridors now a reminder of everything you stand to lose. The weight of the decisions you've made tonight presses against you like an invisible force. The pieces are all in motion now, and there's no turning back. The letters are sent, the alliance is made, the paths drawn. What happens next depends on your every move. You stand in front of your mirror, eyes tracing the familiar lines of your reflection. The queen they see in the court is a mask, a carefully constructed image of grace, authority, and power. But tonight, you feel the cracks in it, the edges where your true self is starting to show. The woman standing before the mirror is not just a queen. She is a strategist, a player in a dangerous game that has no room for failure. You touch the crown resting on your vanity, its cold, metallic surface, a stark contrast to the warmth of the fire crackling in the hearth. The crown feels heavier now, not from its physical weight, but from the responsibility it represents. The weight of a kingdom, the weight of the people's expectations, the weight of betrayal. The door to your chambers opens with a soft creak, and you turn to see the Chamberlain standing in the doorway, his presence as steady and unwavering as always. His eyes flicker briefly to the crown, then to you. "Your Grace, everything is in place," he says, his voice low and deliberate. "The guards have been moved into position, and the loyalists in the provinces are ready. The message has been delivered to the envoy's allies. They will make their move shortly." You nod, your mind already calculating the next step. "And the king's advisor? Is he aware?" The Chamberlain hesitates, and you can see the tension in his posture, the uncertainty that lingers beneath his otherwise composed exterior. "Not yet, Your Grace, but he will be soon. The message we sent to the provinces is clear. If he doesn't move quickly, he will be left behind." You pause, letting the weight of his words settle. The king's advisor has been the one constant in the court, a figure whose influence cannot be easily dismissed. But tonight, you have set the wheels in motion to remove him from the equation. He is a danger, a threat to your claim to the throne, and he must be neutralized one way or another. The final piece must fall into place, you say, your voice steady. He cannot be allowed to stand in our way. The chamberlain bows his head slightly. As you wish, your grace, it will be done. The words hang in the air, and you feel the finality of them settle deep within you. There is no more room for hesitation, no more time to question the path you've chosen. This is war, and the stakes could not be higher. The advisor must be eliminated, discredited, neutralized, or even removed entirely, whatever it takes to secure your position. His loyalty to the king has been too much of a threat to your plans for too long. As the chamberlain turns to leave, you give one last, lingering look at your reflection in the mirror. You see the queen, yes, but you also see the woman who has made herself into something more than a symbol of power. You are a player in this game, a strategist, and tonight you will prove that you can outmaneuver anyone who dares challenge you. You take a deep breath and step away from the mirror, the crown still sitting there, waiting. This time, though, you don't hesitate. You reach for it, feeling its weight settle on your head as you don it for the final time tonight. This is no longer just a piece of jewelry. It is your weapon. It is your shield. And now, you are ready to take the throne. The halls of the palace are eerily quiet as you walk through them, your footsteps muffled against the stone. The silence is oppressive, the kind of silence that comes before a storm. You can feel the tension rising in the air, a palpable sense of anticipation. Your plan is in motion, but it's not over yet, not until every piece has fallen into place. You make your way to the private chamber where the king's advisor is meeting with several other nobles, his circle of influence too large for anyone to ignore. They speak of loyalty, of stability, but you know it's all a facade. Their loyalty is not to the king or the throne. It is to power, to their own ambitions, to the kingdoms they seek to build in the shadows. You enter the chamber without hesitation, your presence enough to silence the conversations that have been quietly murmuring. The advisor looks up, his eyes narrowing as he recognizes you. His expression shifts quickly, from surprise to calculation. He knows why you are here. Your Grace, he says, his voice smooth, but with a trace of caution. I trust all is well? I believe you know why I am here, you reply, your voice cold but commanding. You've been playing a dangerous game, one that has come to an end tonight. The advisor stands, his hands clasped behind his back, his eyes never leaving yours. I don't know what you mean. You take a step forward, your gaze never wavering. Don't play games with me. You've been working in the shadows, manipulating events, controlling the flow of information. You've been loyal to the king, but your loyalty has a price. And tonight, you'll see just how much. The room falls deathly silent. The nobles who have been in the advisor's camp now caught between the loyalty they owe to him and the uncertainty of where your allegiance truly lies. You are not just a queen tonight. You are a force of nature, and the palace knows it. The advisor's smile falters for a moment, then returns, this time more forced. You think you can simply remove me from this game? That you can take control so easily? Control is never easy, you say, but it is inevitable. With a single motion, you signal to the guards who have been waiting just outside the door. They enter, surrounding the advisor, their expressions stern and unwavering. The noblemen exchange uneasy glances, and for the first time, the advisor realizes that the game has shifted. The pieces have moved, and he's no longer in control. I've already won, you say, your voice low but filled with authority. Now, it's your turn to leave. The advisor's expression hardens, but there is nothing he can do. His loyalty to the king, his influence over the court, none of it matters now. His time has run out. The room empties, the nobles taking their leave, their faces filled with uncertainty. You are alone now, the advisor's presence nothing more than a fading memory. The kingdom is yours for the taking, and no one will stand in your way. Tonight, the crown becomes more than just a symbol. It becomes a reality. The palace feels like it's holding its breath as you stand in the aftermath of the advisor's removal. The air is thick, charged with the kind of tension that only accompanies real power shifts. The court that once viewed you as a mere figurehead now watches you as a queen who has taken control, decisively and without hesitation. The advisor's influence is no longer a shadow looming over your reign, and the whispers of rebellion seem quieter in the wake of your strength. The door to the private chamber closes behind you with a soft click, and you turn, taking in the now empty space that once belonged to a man who thought he could outmaneuver you. The game has shifted, and your hand is no longer hidden. Your heart beats a little faster as you walk down the corridor, the sound of your steps echoing against the walls. For the first time in a long time, you feel like you are walking on your own terms, not as someone maneuvered by others, but as the one in control of her own fate. The pieces are falling into place, but the game is far from over. Tonight, you've removed the most immediate threat, but tomorrow, and the days after, will test how deeply you've planted your roots in the court. The Chamberlain is waiting outside, his hands clasped behind his back as he stands at attention. The moment he sees you, his posture shifts slightly, and his eyes reflect the subtle recognition of the power you've just solidified. "It's done," you say, the words feeling heavier than you expect. The advisor is out of the picture. He nods, his expression calm, but with a note of something you can't quite place. And the others? None of them will dare stand against us now. They know that once you remove the head of the snake, the rest scatter. They'll fall in line or they'll be swept aside. You can feel the weight of what's coming. The rebellion is still a threat, but now it has no clear leader. The king's faction is fractured, and without the advisor's guidance, it will be harder for them to regroup and mount any serious resistance. The other factions in the court, those who had been playing their own games, will find themselves scrambling for their places, unsure of how to proceed in the wake of the shift you've just created. The Chamberlain steps forward slightly, his eyes narrowing as he surveys you. "And the king?" You pause, considering his question. The king is still alive, still in power, but his position is now weaker than it's ever been. His trusted advisor is gone, his control over the court slipping away as more nobles look to you for guidance. The rebellion in the provinces is but a distraction now, a distant memory that no longer holds the same weight. "The king is not the immediate threat anymore," you say, your voice firm. "He may still wear the crown, but the power in this palace is mine now." The Chamberlain studies you for a long moment, his gaze almost unreadable. Then, without breaking eye contact, he speaks again, his voice lower this time. "There are those who will try to test you. The nobles won't simply fall into line, and some will try to take advantage of the chaos. You know this, Your Grace. You've made a bold move, but the battle isn't over yet." His words carry the weight of truth, but they don't shake you. You've already won the first round. The advisor's removal was only the beginning, but now the court knows exactly what you're capable of, and they will follow your lead, or they will face the consequences. "I'm ready for whatever comes next," you reply, your voice unwavering. "I've waited long enough for this. Now it's time to make my move and secure my future." You turn to leave the corridor, the Chamberlain falling into step behind you. The palace feels like a different place now. Every shadow and every creak of the floorboards a reminder of the delicate balance of power that you've just tipped in your favor. The halls that once seemed endless now feel smaller, like the walls are closing in on those who would oppose you. The nobles, the courtiers, the rebels, they all have their roles to play now, and none of them are quite sure where you stand. But you know, without a doubt, that the game is yours to control. As you enter the throne room later that evening, the last remnants of daylight fade from the windows, leaving the space bathed in the flickering glow of candlelight. The throne, once an object of ceremonial power, now feels more like a symbol of your reign. You step toward it, the eyes of the court following you, some with admiration, others with fear, but all of them keenly aware of the shift that has taken place. The nobles stand in silence as you approach the throne, and you can feel the weight of their gaze. They wait, unsure of how to act, unsure of what you will do next. You have already proven your strength, but now you must prove your vision. You sit on the throne with an air of quiet authority, your eyes scanning the room, taking in the faces that surround you. These people are your subjects, your potential allies, and your future adversaries. But tonight, they will see you for what you truly are. Not just a queen, but a ruler, a force to be reckoned with. One by one, the nobles bow before you, their gestures slow, deliberate, and filled with the weight of what they know you've just accomplished. As they rise, the silence in the room becomes deafening, the tension thick enough to cut with a knife. The Chamberlain steps forward once more, his gaze meeting yours with a sense of finality. "Your Grace," he says softly, "the court awaits your command." You smile, the first real smile you've allowed yourself since you set this plan in motion. You are in control now. You are the one who commands the court, who controls the future of this kingdom, and there is no one who will stand in your way. "The time for waiting is over," you say, your voice steady but filled with power. "It's time to reshape this kingdom in my image. Tonight, we begin." The court reacts to your words with a mixture of hesitation and awe. But one thing is clear: they know you have claimed what is yours, and no one will take it from you. The game is over. You have won. The palace feels like it's holding its breath, as the days following your declaration pass in a blur of calculated actions and careful diplomacy. The court that once whispered of your fragility now watches you with a mixture of respect and trepidation. You have claimed the throne, no longer a figurehead, no longer a puppet to the whims of others. You are in control, and everyone in this kingdom knows it. But even in your newfound power, there is a subtle tension that hangs in the air. The pieces of the court are scattered, some bending to your will, others uncertain, still others considering whether it's time to act before they're caught in your wake. It's the calm before the storm, the last few moments of silence before the game takes a new and dangerous turn. You've strengthened your alliances, secured the loyalty of the provinces, and removed the most immediate threats. But there is still one final piece left to deal with: the king himself. His position is precarious, his control slipping from his grasp, and the question is no longer whether you will take the throne, but whether you will allow him to remain a part of this kingdom's future. The king's advisor may have been eliminated, but the king remains. His presence, though diminished, still holds sway over certain factions of the court, and while he may no longer have the power he once did, he is not entirely powerless. His supporters, although fewer, still linger in the shadows, waiting for their moment. The rebellion in the provinces may have quieted, but it's only a temporary lull. Your true test lies in dealing with the remnants of the old regime. The king, though weakened, is not one to bow down without a fight. And though you've removed his most trusted allies, there are still those who will see his fall as an opportunity to regain control for themselves. The next steps are critical. You stand before your mirror once more, examining your reflection carefully. The queen they once saw in the court is now someone entirely different, a ruler, a strategist, a queen who has forged her path through blood and sacrifice. You no longer see uncertainty in your eyes. There is only clarity now, and power. Tonight, the king is to make his presence known in the great hall. You know that the time has come for a final confrontation, whether it comes in the form of negotiation or something darker. The game you've been playing has been a battle of wits, but it is about to turn into a full-scale war. The question is no longer whether you will defeat him, it's whether you will destroy him completely or leave a piece of him behind to serve your needs. The Chamberlain enters without a word, his face composed but his eyes betraying the weight of his thoughts. He knows what tonight is. He knows what you've planned. "The king has agreed to meet, Your Grace," he says quietly, his voice carrying the gravity of the situation. "But you know what this meeting means. It's not just a diplomatic gesture. It's a challenge, and it's not one he'll accept lightly." You nod, your hands resting on the arms of your chair as you consider his words. The king has been cornered, yes, but he is not without his own tricks, his own alliances, and tonight he will either submit or he will resist. You are prepared for both outcomes. "Make sure the guards are positioned as we discussed," you say, your voice calm but unwavering, "and send word to the nobles. Let them know that they are to stand with me or they will stand against me." The chamberlain bows deeply, his eyes flickering to the door as if already preparing for what's to come. "It will be done, Your Grace." As he leaves, you rise from your chair and move toward the throne. You pause for a moment before sitting down. The weight of it, the weight of the crown, the weight of your choices seems to settle deeper into your bones. This is the moment, the final test. Tonight, you will see if the court truly belongs to you, or if there is still a chance for the king to reclaim it. You are not afraid. You have fought for this, bled for it, and you know that this battle is yours to win. The great hall is alive with murmurs as you enter, the nobles already gathered, their faces betraying the unease of what is about to happen. At the far end of the room, the king sits on his throne, a mere shadow of the monarch he once was. His eyes flicker toward you as you approach, but there is no recognition in them. He no longer sees you as a queen, he sees you as a threat. "You look well, Your Grace," he says, his voice soft but carrying the faintest edge of something darker. "I see you've made yourself comfortable in the seat of power." "You knew this day would come," you reply, your voice calm, controlled. "You knew I would take control of this kingdom, but you were too busy playing your own games to notice the moment slipping away." The king's lips tighten, but he says nothing. The silence hangs between you, thick with the weight of your history. He knows what you're capable of, and he knows that tonight will determine the future of the kingdom. "I've spent too many years watching you play the fool," you continue, your words cutting through the silence. "You've allowed your own court to betray you, to strip you of your power. But I will not let this kingdom fall into chaos. I will rule, and you will either serve me or disappear." The king's gaze hardens, but he does not speak. The tension in the room is palpable, and the nobles watch in silence, their faces filled with a mixture of fear and anticipation. "You've lost," you say, your voice final. "This throne is mine, and I will not allow anyone, especially you, to take it from me." A long silence follows, and for a moment you wonder if he will break, if he will bow to your power. But he remains still, his eyes burning with defiance. "You may have the throne, but you will never have the kingdom," the king finally says, his voice low but fierce. "You may sit on the throne, but you will never rule with the strength I had." You step forward, the silence in the room thick as you reach out and take the crown from his head, placing it firmly on your own. "Then let's see if you're right," you say. "Tonight, the reign of the old king ends, and your rule begins." The weight of the crown is different now, heavier with the promise of what you've just accomplished, yet lighter with the understanding that it is no longer a symbol of the past, but a declaration of your future. You feel the shift within yourself, the realization that everything you've done, every choice you've made, has brought you to this moment. There is no more room for hesitation. This is your kingdom, and now, with the crown on your head, you will carve your reign into its very bones. The room falls silent, and all eyes are on you. The nobles, the courtiers, the guards, all of them waiting to see what you will do next. The king, now stripped of his crown, stands motionless, the fire that once burned so brightly in his eyes dimming with each passing second. He is no longer the ruler. He is simply a man, standing before the very throne he once commanded. You glance around the room, taking in the faces of those who once followed him, those who once believed in his power. Some are watching you with fear, others with awe, but there are those whose eyes betray something else: ambition, doubt, a hunger for their own place in this new world you're creating. You step forward, your presence filling the room like a force of nature. The air is thick with expectation, but you remain calm, each movement calculated, each gesture deliberate. There is no room for weakness. There is no room for error. "The throne is mine," you say, your voice cold but filled with undeniable authority. "And those who are loyal to me will thrive. Those who resist will be swept aside." The king, still standing, meets your gaze, his expression unreadable. "You think you've won, don't you?" he says, his voice low, almost a whisper. "But you're not the queen. You're just another pawn in a game you don't understand." Your lips curl into a small, almost imperceptible smile. I understand the game better than you ever did, you reply, your voice sharp. You've been playing with fire, but I've learned to control it. The silence that follows is thick with the weight of your words. You know the court is watching, waiting for the next move, for the signal that will decide the fate of the kingdom. You feel the eyes of the nobles upon you, some already calculating their future alliances, others unsure whether to accept this new order or to resist it. You turn to the chamberlain, who has been standing quietly at the side, his eyes never leaving you. Prepare the proclamation, you say, your tone firm. It's time for the court to know who truly rules this kingdom. The chamberlain bows deeply, his expression a mixture of respect and understanding. It will be done, your grace. The court is about to witness the official beginning of your reign. The king may still hold his title, but he has lost the most important thing, the respect and the loyalty of those who once served him. And as you take your seat on the throne, you feel the weight of the crown settle into place, not as a burden, but as a symbol of your triumph. The nobles in the room exchange uneasy glances, and you can feel the shift happening before your eyes. The kingdom is yours, but it will not be easy to hold. There will be those who resist, who will fight to keep what they've lost. But you are prepared for that. The game is far from over. This is only the beginning. Make sure the proclamation is read in every hall, you say, your voice steady, unyielding. Let every corner of the kingdom know that I am the ruler now. No one will doubt my authority. As you sit on the throne, feeling the cool metal of the crown resting on your head, you know that you've made the right choice. You've removed the obstacles in your path, but there are more to come. There will always be those who seek to take from you, to challenge your power. But you are ready. You've already outplayed them all, and you will continue to do so. The king, standing in front of you now, no longer commands the respect of the court. He is nothing more than a relic of a past era, a symbol of what has been lost. His reign has ended, and his place in this kingdom has been replaced by your own. You glance at him one last time, and the words come easily. Your reign is over. The king bows his head slightly, his shoulders slumped, but he does not speak. His silence is his acceptance, a quiet acknowledgement that he no longer holds power. With one final commanding gesture, you turn your attention back to the court. Let it be known, you say, your voice filled with the promise of what is to come, that I, queen of this kingdom, will not be swayed. I will not be outdone. This kingdom is mine, and I will shape it into what it should be. The room falls into a deep, respectful silence. And in that silence, you know that you have won. You have claimed what was always meant to be yours. You are the queen now, and no one can take that from you. The days that follow are a whirlwind, a blur of activity as you solidify your control over the kingdom. The courtiers who once whispered behind your back now watch you with a blend of respect and fear, each move you make observed with the kind of scrutiny usually reserved for only the most powerful rulers. But you know that power is fragile, and the higher you rise, the more dangerous the fall. The proclamation has been read across the kingdom, and already you can feel the shift. The nobles in the provinces, those who once swore loyalty to the king, now find themselves questioning their positions. Some send word, offering their allegiance, their support. Others, however, remain silent, biding their time. It's not that they doubt you, they're simply unsure whether your reign will last. And in this world, uncertainty is the greatest danger. You sit in your private chambers late into the night, poring over maps of the kingdom. The rebellion has been suppressed, but the true challenge lies within the court itself. The king may be gone from the throne, but his loyalists still linger in the shadows. They are more dangerous now than ever before, for their loyalty to him is not just a matter of allegiance, but of identity. To them, his fall is a betrayal of everything they believed in, and they will not let that betrayal go unanswered. The chamberlain enters, as always, silently. You glance up from the map, and his gaze meets yours with the familiarity of someone who has seen every side of you, the queen, the strategist, the ruler. There's an unspoken understanding between you both. He knows the stakes, he knows the risks. Your grace, he begins, his voice low. The letters have arrived from the provinces. There are those who are loyal, but others are hesitant. They want guarantees before they pledge themselves to you fully. You exhale slowly, your fingers tapping the edge of the map in front of you. Guarantees. They want assurances that I will hold my power, that I will not be overthrown. He nods. Exactly. They want to be sure that your reign is not just a momentary rise, but a future they can invest in. You sit back in your chair, considering his words. The nobility may have pledged their support publicly, but they are as fickle as the wind. Power is their currency, and if they believe that you are not a stable force, they will turn on you in an instant. The court will always test you, always seek to find your weaknesses, your vulnerabilities, and those who are slow to act now may become your fiercest adversaries later. You'll need to strengthen your position, the Chamberlain continues, his eyes studying you. A public display of your power, something that will silence any doubt. The people need to see you as the one who commands, not just the one who takes. You nod, a thought forming in your mind. There is a way to show them. There is a way to prove your strength and solidify your rule. Prepare for a royal procession, you say, your voice steady with resolve. We will take the capital by storm. The people need to see their queen in person, to hear my voice. I'll remind them of who I am and of what is mine. This kingdom will belong to me. The Chamberlain's eyes flicker with approval, but there's also a hint of concern. He knows what this means, what kind of challenge it will be to lead such a display. The streets will be crowded, the air thick with both loyalty and suspicion, but that is the very reason you must do it. The people must see that you are not just the queen by title, but by action. I'll arrange the details, Your Grace, he says, bowing deeply. It will be done. The days pass quickly as preparations for the procession unfold. The royal guards are doubled, the streets cleared, banners bearing your crest raised high. The courtiers, the nobles, the common folk, they are all waiting for the spectacle to unfold. You are ready, and you know that this is the moment that will define your rule. When the day arrives, you stand before the palace gates, the sunlight glinting off the crown on your head. The streets are lined with people, their faces a mixture of excitement and nervous anticipation. You step out into the sunlight, the cheers of the crowd rising around you, but you do not falter. You stand tall, proud, and in control. This is your kingdom, and tonight you will remind them all. The procession moves forward, a sea of people gathered to witness the strength of their queen. The nobles bow their heads as you pass, some with genuine respect, others with more calculated deference. You feel the weight of their eyes on you, but you are no longer the woman who doubted her place. You are the queen, and your every move is deliberate, powerful, and assured. As you reach the central square, the crowd swells, their voices rising in unison, chanting your name. You raise your hand, silencing them with a single motion. The square is now completely still, the entire city watching you, waiting for your command. People of this kingdom, you say, your voice carrying over the crowd. I stand before you not as a symbol of power, but as a ruler who will shape the future. This kingdom is mine, and with your loyalty, we will make it stronger than ever. The past is behind us. The future is ours. The crowd erupts into applause. The roar of their voice is deafening. You allow yourself a small smile, knowing that the seed has been planted. They see you now not just as a queen, but as the one who commands the throne. You have solidified your rule. You have proven that the crown you wear is not just a symbol, but a weapon, and there is no one left who can take it from you. The days following the royal procession feel like a surge of momentum that cannot be stopped. The cheers of the crowd still echo in your ears, their faith in you hanging heavy in the air like a promise. The city is yours. The kingdom is yours. And with every passing day, your power solidifies. The nobles who were once hesitant now rally behind you, the rebellion that loomed only a whisper now fading into the background. But beneath the surface, the court remains a dangerous place. The loyalty of your subjects is fleeting, like the ebb and flow of the tide. Those who once supported the king are now assessing you, testing your resolve, seeking any cracks in your armor. You know it will take more than one grand display to keep them in check. The kingdom you've claimed is vast, and its challenges are only just beginning. You stand in your chambers late one evening, watching the last traces of daylight fade from the windows. The city outside seems peaceful, but you know better than to mistake calm for stability. The crown you wear is heavy, a constant reminder that the game is far from over. You've won this round, but there are still pieces to move, decisions to make. The Chamberlain enters, his expression as controlled as always. His eyes flicker to you, reading the tension in your posture, the way your fingers drum against the table. He waits for you to speak, his silence, an unspoken offer of counsel. You've been quiet lately, you say, breaking the stillness. What news do you bring? He bows, and when he speaks, his voice is soft but urgent. There are movements in the provinces, Your Grace. Some of the loyalists who were once loyal to the king are stirring again. They are not organized yet, but they have begun to gather in secret. I've received word from our allies that there is talk of rebellion once more. Your heart quickens, but you do not show it. Rebellion is always just beneath the surface, a whisper away from becoming something more dangerous. The court may be quieter now, but it will always harbor discontent. It always does. Do we have names? You ask, your voice cold, calculating. The Chamberlain hesitates but nods. There are a few, Your Grace, but most are still in the shadows. We cannot yet be sure how deep this runs. It may be nothing more than a few isolated dissenters. You take a deep breath, trying to quell the unease that rises in your chest. We can't afford to wait. If they are planning something, we need to act before it grows. The Chamberlain's eyes flicker with concern. Of course, Your Grace. I will have our agents begin watching them. We'll make sure we know everything before it becomes a real threat. You nod, satisfied with the response. Good. And send word to our allies in the provinces. I want them to start positioning themselves just in case. As the Chamberlain exits, you remain standing, the weight of the decision settling in. You've already claimed the throne, but now the kingdom itself is testing you. You are not just a queen of a city, a ruler of a court. You are a queen of a kingdom, one with a history of rebellion and unrest. Power does not come easily, and it does not come without resistance. The next morning, you begin to make your preparations. A council is called, and the nobles arrive one by one, their faces neutral but their eyes sharp. They may show deference, but they are also calculating. They want to see how you will handle this new challenge. Will you crack under the pressure, or will you show them the true strength of your rule? The room falls silent as you take your seat at the head of the table. You can feel the weight of their gaze on you, but you do not flinch. You've come this far. There is no turning back now. Rumors of rebellion have reached me. You begin, your voice calm, controlled. But I will not let this kingdom fall to chaos. I will not allow anyone to threaten the stability we've worked so hard to build. The nobles exchange quick glances, but none of them speak. They know this is your moment, the moment where you prove whether you are a queen of strength or a queen of fear. We will deal with these dissenters swiftly. You continue, your eyes locking onto each noble in turn. I will not tolerate anyone who would risk the future of this kingdom for their own ambitions. A murmur ripples through the room, but no one dares speak against you. The message is clear. You will not be challenged. Not now. Not ever. The meeting continues, but you already know the course of action. You will use this opportunity to strengthen your position, to eliminate any threats before they can gain momentum. It's not just about loyalty, it's about control. And as long as you hold the reins, no one will dare rise against you. As the council ends and the nobles begin to leave, you remain seated, your mind working furiously. The pieces are falling into place, but the game is far from over. You've defeated the king, but there are still those who would take advantage of the cracks in your rule. The rebellion, if it comes, will be the final test of your reign. But you're ready. The crown is yours, and you will hold it until the end. No one will take it from you, not the court, not the rebels, and certainly not the past. The next chapter of your rule begins now, and no one will stand in your way. The weeks that follow are marked by a kind of calculated stillness. The court has settled into an uneasy peace, with the nobles wary of your power, but unsure how to move against it. They are watching you, waiting for any sign of weakness. But you are resolute. You are prepared to do whatever it takes to solidify your reign. Every move, every decision, every word is measured. You will not let the throne slip from your grasp, not now, not ever. The rebellion, though still in its earliest stages, is a looming threat. But the whispers grow louder with each passing day, and you know that it is only a matter of time before those who are dissatisfied with your rule attempt to rise up. You can't allow that to happen. You must act before they have the chance to gain momentum. You sit at your desk late one evening, the dim light of the candle flickering as your fingers trace the map of the kingdom. The rebels are scattered, their movements uncertain, but they are gathering in secret. The courtiers who once pledged their loyalty to the old king are still waiting to see if you will falter, if the cracks in your reign will widen enough for them to seize power. They think you are vulnerable, but they are wrong. You have already taken the first step. You've reinforced your alliances with the provinces, made strategic promises to those who are still loyal to the crown. You've removed the threats in the court, ensuring that no one can challenge you directly. But you know that it's not enough to rely on your supporters. You need to strike fear into the hearts of those who would dare oppose you. You need to show them that rebellion will not be tolerated, not on your watch. A soft knock on the door pulls you from your thoughts. You look up to see the chamberlain standing in the doorway, his expression unreadable, as always. But there is a slight tension in his posture that you cannot ignore. "Your Grace," he says, his voice steady but with an undertone of urgency. "There is news from the provinces. Some of the dissenters have begun to gather in larger numbers. They are planning something, and they are not alone." Your heart tightens at his words, but you do not let it show. You have been expecting this, but hearing it out loud makes it feel more real, more immediate. "Who are they aligning with?" you ask, your voice calm but sharp. The chamberlain hesitates, then speaks. "There are rumors of outside influence. Merchants from beyond the kingdom's borders. A foreign alliance, Your Grace. A foreign alliance." The words send a shiver down your spine. You knew that discontent could brew within the kingdom, but you hadn't anticipated the involvement of outsiders. This changes everything. If the rebels are being supported from outside the kingdom, it could mean the difference between a localized uprising and a full-scale war. You rise from your desk, your fingers brushing the map before you. "We cannot allow this to continue," you say, your voice low and controlled. "Prepare the necessary arrangements. I want all known dissenters captured, no exceptions." The chamberlain bows deeply, but you can see the flicker of concern in his eyes. He knows that this is not just about quelling a rebellion anymore. This is about securing your place as the ruler of the kingdom, not just in the eyes of your court, but in the eyes of the world. "It will be done, Your Grace," he says, his voice unwavering. You nod once, your mind already calculating the steps to take. The rebellion may have been a quiet murmur at first, but now it is a threat that cannot be ignored. The foreign alliance changes the stakes entirely, and you will not allow your kingdom to be swept away by forces from beyond its borders. You have already taken control of the court. Now, you must prove that you can protect the kingdom from both internal and external threats. The following days are a blur of strategy and action. You meet with the key commanders of your army, the leaders of the provinces, and the trusted nobles who have pledged their loyalty to you. The time for diplomacy is over. The time for action has come. You call for a royal council, and as the nobles gather, the tension in the air is palpable. They have seen your power in the court, but now they will witness the full extent of your resolve. You stand before them, your gaze sweeping across the room, reading the faces of those who would dare challenge you. You know who stands with you, and you know who is still watching from the shadows, waiting for a sign of weakness. "The rebellion has begun," you say, your voice cutting through the room. "But it will not succeed. I will not allow it. We will move swiftly, decisively, and with the full strength of the kingdom behind us. The traitors will be rooted out, and any who seek to undermine my rule will face the consequences." The room is silent for a moment. the nobles exchanging wary glances, but none of them speak against you. They have learned, in the months since your rise to power, that defiance is a dangerous game. You will see to it that the rebels are dealt with. You continue, your tone hard and unwavering. The kingdom must remain united, or it will crumble, and we will not let that happen. The council members nod in agreement, and you can feel the shift in the room as they begin to fall in line. The loyalty you've demanded is now clear. Those who have supported you will continue to do so, and those who have not will now find themselves faced with the consequences of their indecision. As the council adjourns, you feel the weight of the decisions you've made. You are preparing for war, but you are also preparing for something more important: securing your legacy. This kingdom will remember you not just as a queen, but as the ruler who shaped its destiny. The rebellion may still linger in the shadows, but tonight, you take one more step in proving that you are the true ruler of this land. The game is no longer a matter of survival. It is a matter of domination, and you will not be outdone. The days blur into nights, each one marked by the gathering storm on the horizon. The rebellion, once a whisper, now grows louder, bolder, its reach spreading through the provinces like wildfire. The nobility, though for the most part aligned with you, still harbour their own ambitions, and you know that their loyalty is as fragile as the kingdom itself. Every move you make now is both a declaration of power and a reminder of the stakes. There is no room for error. Your generals have been mobilized, the troops ready to respond at a moment's notice. You know that the rebellion will not be easily squashed. This is not a revolt driven by mere dissatisfaction, but one fueled by a dangerous combination of ambition, desperation, and foreign influence. The foreign alliance that had seemed like a distant possibility now feels very real. The whispers of merchants and trade routes, of secret meetings and backdoor deals, paint a picture that makes your blood run cold. The kingdom is under threat, not just from within, but from forces beyond its borders. You stand in your war room, the flickering torchlight casting long shadows against the stone walls. Maps and reports are scattered across the table before you, each one a piece of the puzzle you've spent the last few months piecing together. The faces of your commanders are grim, but their loyalty to you is unwavering. They, like you, understand what must be done. "We move tonight," you say, your voice steady, cutting through the tension in the room. "We strike before they have the chance to regroup. We will show them that rebellion will not be tolerated, not in this kingdom, not while I sit on the throne." The room goes quiet as your generals exchange glances, but none of them speak out of turn. They know that defiance now would be a dangerous game. One by one they nod, and you can feel the unity in their resolve. There is no hesitation, no room for doubt. The rebellion must be crushed, swiftly and decisively. The chamberlain enters the room, his presence as silent and commanding as ever. He steps forward and presents you with a sealed letter, the wax bearing the unmistakable insignia of the provinces. "Your Grace," he begins, his voice low but urgent. "This is from the provinces. They've reported heavy movements in the east. The rebellion is coordinating with forces we did not anticipate." You take the letter, breaking the seal with a practiced hand. As you unfold it, you feel the familiar tension tighten in your chest. The contents are worse than you feared. The rebellion has not only gained momentum, but has forged a direct connection with foreign forces. Forces whose intentions are still shrouded in mystery, but whose support could tip the balance of power in their favor. "We will need to act before they get any stronger," you say, your voice hardening with determination. "We cannot afford to let them make another move. Send word to the provinces. Prepare them for immediate action. We move at dawn." The chamberlain nods, his expression unreadable, but you see the glimmer of approval in his eyes. You've made the right call. It is the only call. The rest of the night is spent preparing for the attack. The generals dispatch orders, the soldiers make final preparations, and the courtiers are told to prepare for the aftermath. No one is to leave the palace. The rebellion must be crushed without hesitation. Your agents are already in position, watching the key leaders of the revolt, waiting for the signal to strike. The morning dawns grey and cold, the air heavy with the promise of what's to come. You stand at the head of your army, the banners of your kingdom fluttering behind you, the weight of the crown heavy on your head. The soldiers before you stand in perfect formation, their armor gleaming, their expressions hard and focused. There is no fear here, only the grim determination that comes with knowing the stakes. As you lead your forces into the heart of the province, the landscape shifts around you. The rebellion has gathered in the forests, in the hills, out of sight from the capital. But you know their movements, and your forces are closing in. This will be no skirmish. This will be a decisive battle, one that will either solidify your rule or fracture it completely. You've already seen how fragile power can be, how quickly it can slip through your fingers. You cannot let that happen. The clash is swift, violent. The rebels are well trained, but they are unorganized. They are driven by desperation, but they do not have the unity that you've forged. Your forces move with precision, cutting through the enemy lines like a blade through silk. The sounds of battle are deafening, but you do not falter. You move through the battlefield with the same calm, calculated demeanor that you've shown in the war room. Every move is deliberate. Every decision is made with purpose. You can hear the cries of the fallen, the clash of swords, the shouts of orders being barked, but it is the silence that follows that is the most telling. The rebellion, once so full of promise, is crumbling before you. The leader of the revolt, a man who once dared to challenge your rule, stands before you now. He is wounded, but defiant. "You may win today," he says, his voice ragged, "but the rebellion will not end with me. Others will rise. Others will come. You cannot stop the change." You step forward, the weight of his words hanging in the air like a challenge. "I have stopped you," you reply, your voice cold, "and I will stop anyone else who dares rise against me." You raise your hand, signaling your soldiers to move in. There is no mercy here. The time for mercy has passed. As you watch the final resistance crumble, you know that you have struck the decisive blow. The rebellion has been extinguished, its leaders scattered, its support shattered. That evening, as you stand on the balcony of the palace overlooking the city, the first signs of peace begin to settle in. The streets are still, the air heavy with the aftermath of battle. The crown on your head feels more fitting than ever, a symbol not just of power, but of what you have achieved. The kingdom is yours. You have proven your strength. You have shown the world that no one, not even rebellion, not even foreign alliances, can take what is rightfully yours. But as you watch the city below, you know that there will always be those who will seek to challenge your rule. There will always be threats, always those who will try to tear down what you've built. But you are ready. You've faced them before, and you will face them again. This kingdom will be yours for as long as you choose to rule it. The game has ended. The reign has begun.